close,
Right.
because I didn't think it was worth $2,000.
That's what I'm hearing from people.
It's a little over $2,000.
Yeah,
She wanted me to spend it, I said, I don't think so.
interesting. One of these
Three
days.
sandwiches in that stack?
Josh.
So I haven't seen this one. I saw that one about 30 minutes ago. But okay. So I was reading it.
Yeah, if this is the city attorney, it's a little different.
Oh, true.
For you.
Do you agree that this is fairly irrelevant?
Are we on?
Oh, yeah.
Dave, are we ready?
I mean, the vote's what matters. And that's the thing.
Right up there. Oh, I got 6:30.
You're on.
Notice is hereby given that the Lago Vista City Council is holding a regular meeting on Thursday, December 5th, 2019, beginning at 6:30 p.m. in the City Council chambers at City Hall, 5803 Thunderbird, Lago Vista, Texas, as prescribed by VTCA Government Code Section 551.041 to consider the following agenda items. Items do not have to be taken in the same order as shown in the meeting notice. Sandra, please note that all of our council members are here tonight. If you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and the pledge to the Texas flag. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated. Right, citizen comments. In accordance with the Open Meetings Act, council is prohibited from acting or discussing other than factual response to specific questions, any items not on the agenda. And I will start with, I have signed up here, I have Clive Rutherford.
My name's Clive Rutherford. I live at 2008 American Drive, Unit Number 1. Mr. Mayor, councillors, city manager, I'm here today both as a citizen of Lago Vista and as the property manager for the Lazy Hollows condominiums on Travis Drive. And I'm telling you that you have an absolute shambles on your hands. Last week, the city clear-cut all trees, that's every last stick, on a 5-acre tract of Lago Vista Municipal Center subdivision adjoining the southeast and southwest sides of Lago Vista Police Department. Residents of Lazy Hollow condominiums, which also adjoins a portion of the subject tract, came to hear of the action only when the machines started to clear the land. We were told the idea was to assess the land for a possible dump/waste disposal facility. It is said that the matter was discussed in an open public meeting, the City Council retreat, which I shall admit it never occurred to me might be open to the public, on November the 20th and 21st. Sorry, but nobody in this room or even in this zip code believes the city of Lago Vista is capable of moving that fast. I personally do not see how clear-cutting 5 acres of land is justified for almost any purpose. And I note that once the issue became subject to public debate, those contracted to clear the land took out the cedars on an additional acre behind Lago Vista Police Department while carefully leaving the oaks behind. So it seems the decision was made without consulting or even advising folks likely to be impacted to clear-cut 5 acres of land. It may well be true that the matter was discussed at the council retreat, but it's very clear that this contract was let before that time. The justification for the clearing was to be the establishment of a dump or waste disposal center. I may have missed something, but isn't this area slated to be in or adjoining a quote-unquote public area in the city's long-range plan? Doesn't it adjoin the city library? And isn't it close to what the long-range plan describes as the charming boutique destination of Dawn Drive? From my perspective, this was an ill-thought-out plan, and our city has destroyed an area of woodland for no good reason. I ask you to please stop, find an alternative location, perhaps in an industrial area of town. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right, next I have Jeff, is it Flooding?
My name is Jeff Flooding, 3611 Mount Laurel Road. And I want to talk about what I see as a growing problem in town. I don't know if anybody else has noticed how much delivery we get in this town with Amazon, UPS and such. And these drivers are getting insane. They're going way too fast down private streets, communities and such. And I think it needs to be stopped, and they need to be slowed down just a little bit. I've almost got hit twice. I was going down Boggy Ford just the other day, and this gal came up, and I guess they call it a Sprinter or such, like one of those vans. Mm-hmm. And she looked right at me. She had her lights flashing, and she pulled right out in front of me, and I had to hit the binders. And I almost wanted to pull her over and really give her a hard time, but I decided to let it go. I thought I'd just bring it up and plant a seed. I don't know if this is strictly a police problem, or maybe the city can draft a letter and to these distributors, Amazon and such. I don't know where they're at. I'm going to assume maybe Cedar Park or somewhere in Austin. But they need to be told that they shouldn't be driving so fast in this town. They're going to kill somebody or hurt them. And I hate to see children out playing. I hate to see this. And especially now, this time of year, around Christmas time. My wife, she probably gets 2 or 3 packages a day. So I'm seeing these people daily. They know me by name. I see them so much. And I do tell them. I said, are you guys, driving down here? Are you considerate with your driving and all that? But I think they're subcontractors. I think they're getting paid by the package. And I think they're going too damn fast to make a living. I can dig it, but they're going to hurt somebody. So I'd really appreciate it if you consider drafting a letter. And I think everybody knows pretty much who the main delivery companies are: Amazon, UPS. There's probably 5 or 6 of them going through town. I think the biggest one that I've seen that is really causing a problem, I'd have to say, is Amazon. And I'd have to assume these people do not live here. So I appreciate your time. That's all I wanted to say. Just plant a seed, and thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, next is Sam Albus.
My name is Sam Albus. I live at 21 Oaks Place in Lago Vista. And I just want to tell you, I like the golf courses, and I want the golf courses to get good, real good. But I would like to give my time to somebody else. Is that allowable?
Yeah.
I'd like to give my time to Mr. Sullivan and the lady that spoke against the golf courses last night and tell me what they would like to see what happen to them.
I'm not here to talk about the golf courses tonight.
Yeah, I don't have them signed up, Sam, so.
Okay, but none of them, they get up and they say we don't want to use money for it, but what do they want us to do with it? What do they want y'all to do with the golf course if they don't want to put money in it to make it where people will come and play on it? I've never heard any one of them that say they don't want to spend money on it, they never say how they want to do with the golf courses. So I wish somebody'd tell me.
All right. Thank you, Sam.
Here. I'll be happy to meet with you, chat anytime.
All right, next is David Shafuro.
Shafford.
Shafford. Okay, sorry.
Shapiro.
Shafuro, looks like F-F-U-R-O.
Shepherd.
Shafford.
Okay, guys, the Lago Vista Golf Course is much more than a bunch of retirees playing golf. Organizations such as the Lions Club, the Chamber, the Blue Santa, the Travis Cup, better known as the War on the North Shore, which is a 3-day tournament against Point Venture, which is primarily an avenue for fellowship with our neighboring community. The Lago Vista Independent School District hosts tournaments with other school districts throughout the year. Seeing 6 or more large yellow school buses parked at our club and watching these high school students walking our course, competing for a trophy, gives me a good feeling that our soon-to-be adults are learning the importance of integrity and competition in their future jobs and family. All of these organizations and many more benefit from the Lago Vista Golf Course. Sure, our community is growing and our needs are many. I believe if we work together, we can stay true to our roots and remain a close-knit community. Thank you.
Thank you. Gerald Perrin.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Gerald Perrin. I reside at 3604 Mount Laurel Road here in Lago Vista and have since 2014. I'm here to show my support for the golf course and give you a little bit of history about why I'm here. In 2004 is when my wife Vicki and I first started looking for places to retire. We were looking in East Texas. We were looking around Lake Whitney. The requirement we had, the wife wanted a lake view or on the lake. My requirement was golf course or proximity to a golf course. Just by accident, in 2004, we came down to visit some friends here in Lago for Thanksgiving and fell in love with the community. Everything was here that we were looking for. Far enough away from Austin, we didn't get wrapped up in the weirdness, but close enough we could go see it sometimes when we wanted to. So in 2005, I came back down, and with the help of Chris Shive, we found the lot. It's got a beautiful lot up on Mount Laurel. If you've ever been up there, you ought to see the view. My neighbor, Jeff. But we love it. We love everything about the community, small community. We made a lot of good friends. So, you know, in my past life, I had the benefit of working with some cities to represent my company in Collin County, 10 cities in Collin County, ranging in from population of 6,000 to 250,000. I worked closely with the city councils and city managers through my work, and I got to see a lot of the success stories and trials and tribulations of cities, dealing with growth, some of them unwanted and others trying to get growth. And one thing I noticed about the cities that were trying to get people to move there, whether commercial, industrial, or residents, the cities looked at exactly what they had to offer. What could they offer to get people there? Some of them had just had open space. Some of them had proximity to public transportation. But the cities focused on what they had to offer, and they went for it. City Anna went for data centers. We had another city up there, Melissa, looked for industrial centers because they had the space. So I would hate to see for the city to lose the luster. I think the greatest facet this gem of the city has got is the golf course. And I'm not looking forward to moving again. I don't want to, but I will, because if any of that changes, I will do that. Last few minutes I got, I want to thank each and every one of you guys here. I know what it takes to do your job, and it's hard work, and I appreciate it, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Donna Mummy.
Good evening, I'm Donna Mummy. I'm a 25-year resident of Lago Vista. I've worked for the school district for 21 years, And I currently teach high school 11th and 12th grade math at the high school here in town. But I speak to you tonight as president of the Lazy Hollow Condominium Homeowners Association on behalf of the residents there who are neighbors of the police department. And Mr. Rutherford's already addressed several things that I wanted to address tonight, so I'll try to skip a few things to save you from hearing things twice. I just want to say we're real proud of our little place in Lago Vista, like everyone else. We, over the last 5 years, we've repainted. We've put in new, I was going to say flooring, but asphalt. We've also put in some new water, a whole new watering system to keep our place really nice and clean. We would have really liked to have heard from someone from the city that this was going to happen over our Thanksgiving weekend when they came in and started cutting trees we didn't even know on Saturday morning at 7 o'clock, again on Sunday morning at 7 o'clock, beep, 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 all the noise, the cutting of these trees, not even a note on our front door to say, hey, by the way, you might want to cover your furniture to protect your belongings from the dust and stuff that's going to come into your home, the cedar chopping. Have you ever lived next to that one that's going on? It's pretty bad. You can take a white tissue right now over my red leather couch and pick up green dust. You could write your name on the back of it, right? So there's a lot going on we could have done, maybe protected our own furniture and our belongings. Had we known, right? So we're asking for a little bit more transparency, I think, in the government. When government is not transparent, people begin to distrust the government. We got some information. I came over here the Tuesday of Thanksgiving week to find out what is going on when we could finally start seeing what was happening on our place. I came in and I found out from John, said that there were no permits pulled because I asked what's going on, how long is it going to be, and how long are we going to put up with this, and what's going on that we're living through here. And I was told there were no permits pulled because they were only cutting trees under 10 inches in diameter. Well, being a math teacher, I went over and wanted to calculate some of the cut circumference in the trees. Plenty of trees were cut down that were over 10 inches in diameter. So back I come after Thanksgiving and find out they're still working on Sunday morning even. Came over and asked, and I was told by the lady who pulled the permit, oh, no, we did pull permits. Well, that's not what I was told last week. So now I'm told that we did pull permits and that it was city employees doing it. I wanted to know about bids. How long has this been going on? Who's in charge, who's decided to do this? And I was told that basically it was city employees doing it. Okay. Then a few days later, thank you, Mr. Ray, met with me and walked our property because we do have also another concern I won't really go into tonight about drainage from when that property was sold by the school district to the city and all that. Mr. Ray's taking care of my questions for that, and I really appreciate his time in doing that. But then I find out that initially there were city employees, but then we did in fact have contract people out there. So what's true, what's not? There's no transparency here for us to know, and we begin to not trust government when that happens. Anyway, my time is almost up, but I just wanted to share with you. We understand that
your time is up, actually.
Oh, is it? Okay. Then I'm sorry. I won't go any further.
Thanks, Donna. Dan Clark.
Hello, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Dan Clark. I'm a resident of the Lazy Hollow condominiums. So I wanted to come to talk to you today about the same topic that Donna's just spoken about and Clive spoke about earlier. Since I moved here in March of 2018, I felt privileged and grateful to look out over the land next to us. So you can imagine that I was disappointed and saddened when the land was cleared of the majority of the trees. It was a time of confusion and anxiety amongst myself and my neighbours. And that's when I created the survey on change.org entitled Cease Development of the New LV Waste Centre Until All Plans and Studies Are Made Public, a petition that has garnered 194 signatures in 1 week. Whilst I acknowledge the need for improved and expanded city facilities in what is a growing community, I feel the approach for this centre has not been carried out in the appropriate way. We only learned of the potential development after making active inquiries ourselves, as Donna just covered, to learn about the potential for the Green Centre, which could include natural waste such as tree debris, also regular recycling, hazardous waste storage such as bow pates, waste transfer, and a staging location for city works. We were made aware of the discussion in the City Council retreat earlier in November, but that agenda was very high level, and the minutes of that session were not, and as far as I'm aware, currently remain unpublished. The clearing began very soon after that discussion, leaving many of us unaware and confused of what development may occur. It is fair to say that a lot of stress and anxiety could have been avoided with sufficient notice, both in time and detail, to nearby residents to help them understand what would be happening and where the council is in the process. I am therefore glad to have since received responses from Mayor Tidwell and City Manager Josh Ray, along with other City Council members on the topic, acknowledging flaws in the process and the communication and clarifying the current state of the project. Thank you for that. Whilst in the future I may personally still feel the need to oppose any specific development plans, my main concern right now is open and transparent communication of any and all plans from the council, so that the community may be informed and have our say where relevant. Thank you for your time and hearing my concerns, and I look forward to hearing more from you in the future on the topic.
Thank you, Dan. Darcy, is it pronounced DeVoe?
Hello, my name is Darcy DeVoe. I live at 200223 Travis Drive. I am the VP of our HOA. As Donna and Daniel were saying, we would like to know how it went from strategic planning to this being passed out at your retreat with a $440,000, that's just an estimate, okay, to this monstrosity of what you did to the land, okay? We live there. We smell it. You can't even get out of your car at our units right now. It is so bad, the smell of these trees. Me and Donna on Sunday walked the land. I was crying because of what it looks like. The trees were not marked. I work with an arborist in downtown. He told me how to measure the trees at 4.6 to see if they're 10-inch diameters. He showed me what to do. I went there with tape measures and measured all the down trees. We have pictures. The only two trees that were marked were a 2 and a 6. They are old tags, okay? I want to know who permitted that. I want to know who said, go clear the land. Because someone did. Someone told those contractors, go clear the land. They didn't do that on their own. They're contractors. They do what you tell them to do. First off, I didn't see one trailer with a DOT tag to have those vehicles on the road in the first place, which is against Texas state law. Okay? You cannot transport a vehicle without a DOT sticker. Okay? Another thing is, I'm sorry, I'm so nervous. I'm so upset about this. I am one of those people, if I'm driving down the street and I see you kicking a dog, I stop. If I see you being mean to your child, I stop. If I see you doing something to the land that is so disgusting, I will speak up. And that's what I feel that you have done to this land. I understand waste disposal. I was a professional organizer for 14 years. I work with hoarders, okay? I understand how you have to get rid of stuff. I have been to almost every single facility in the Austin area, and probably almost Lake or Travis County. I know I wear gloves, I wear shoes, I wear sometimes a mask. You cannot tell me if a green center goes there that is not trash. That is trash. Anything that anyone gets rid of is trash. Okay? Criminals are criminals. They're going to keep doing it. The only way you're going to stop the criminal is if you put up cameras and catch their license plates and fine them heavily. I would say a $5,000 fine for dumping. That's how you stop a criminal. You don't open up a green center to your good citizens 4 days a month And then the city manager has said it would be extended hours. What is it? Extended hours or 4 days a month?
Okay.
And that's it.
Your time's
Thank
up.
you.
All right, that is all that I have signed up to speak. Is there anybody else who would like to speak who has not signed up at this time?
Can I just take a minute from the gentleman who was talking about the golf course, who called me up that said that I was talking about the golf course last night?
If you would like to address the council, you have 3 minutes.
The only thing that I wanted to say is an awful lot has been put on the taxpayers for this golf course, and a lot of the blame is being put on the city. But we've only owned it for the last 10 years, and we've got 50-year-old greens, and it was all privately owned before. So to say that we are the ones who haven't been keeping it up, it's the companies who used to own it who never replaced the greens. But yes, in the past 10 years, it has been put on us and the taxpayers. And that is really all that I was saying about it last night.
All right, thank you. All right, so I know there was a lot of questions, and I've made put together a few things. A lot of this comes from social media, but because we did have people come to speak on it tonight and have questions, I do have some facts that I would reply with. Some of this was not even covered in tonight, but I'm going to go down my list here. So as it stands right now, City Council has not been brought, there's been no plan brought forth to the City Council for consideration. Council has only given the city manager direction to put together a plan for consideration. Council has not voted on anything, and no budget line item has been approved for any future project. And I am certain that every council member will have questions and concerns for any future plan. The site is property that the city bought for the sole purpose of expanding municipal services. The potential services that are being looked at by staff include an improved helipad, an expanded green center for the recycling of brush, a recycling center, a household hazardous waste collection center, a solid waste transfer station, which is actually a dumpster, not a dump, expanded police department parking, and associated public works offices. If anybody would like to look at one that's in existence, the Lake Travis Regional Reuse and Recycling Center on Nyhard Drive in Lakeway, right there on Nyhard Drive, across from Hudson Bend Middle School. Any facility that goes in there would be fenced, similar to the police station, and buffered with trees above the line of sight of the fence. With the exception of brush recycling, the goal for this type of facility is for everything to be enclosed within a facility. So again, the dump is not on the table, because that would not go inside a building. The facility would only be open a few days per month. Staff has spent over a year researching at least 4 potential sites. Let's see. We did pull non-point pollution survey permits from our building services department that were required for the clearing. Let's see. And yes, there was definitely a breakdown in communication, both internally and externally. And that's all I have. Did you have anything to add, sir?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So we do have the map that I think a lot of people have seen, and I'd gladly share an updated map with anyone that wants to look at it. My first comments came back from Clive, and typically they come back from Clive to say, hey, we've got an issue here. And that's a good system. It really is. And I do appreciate it. In sincerity, Clive. The decision, you asked the question, who made the decision to clear the lot? That's my decision. Anything that goes on in this city from the staff side is my responsibility, my decision, and we did that so that we can get information on a site for the council to make a decision when we present it to the council on an agenda item. The goal is to get it to the December 19th agenda. If we get it to there, great. If we don't get it to that one, it'll be the next January meeting, January 4th meeting. There are a lot of points on here that we're going to look at. There's some things that we have in this map that I was just mentioning there. We have two different plans there. There are a couple of things that we can lay out. If council chooses not to do anything with that lot in terms of the Green Center, we're still going to look to expand the parking lot for the police department. The helipad in its current existence is there now. I don't think there's any kind of reason to relocate that. It does have intrinsic value to the community and to this area. So overall, I agree with the mayor. The communication, the lack of communication, that goes straight back to me and inefficient. We had a clear channel that we could have given out information. The door tags, that's an easy one. We easily could have went back to Mr. Clark's comment, and we could have said, here you go, this is what we're doing. I will disagree with Clive on the fact that if anything happens quickly, after council said, do this, we went to a contractor that we use and we said, can you do this? The contractor said, yes, we can do this for less than $5,000. You don't bid out those if you get a fair price for that. So the process is actually extremely quick for a city. And going back, we definitely should not have done anything around a holiday. Poor choice, my part, shouldn't have done it on the holiday weekend.
Do you have the figure of what you actually paid for that? You had that whole land clear for $5,000? Wow.
And
Okay, well, this is not on the agenda for discussion, so.
But I just wanted to make that because there were some great questions, great points, and just to tell you, those are the answers from our side, Mayor, and that when we get to that council agenda item, there'll be more availability for those discussions. Thanks, Mayor.
All right. So now we will move into items of community interest. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.0415, the City Council may report on any of the following items: expressions of thanks, gratitude, and condolences, information regarding holiday schedules, recognition of individuals, reminders regarding City Council events, reminders regarding community events, and health and safety announcements. And I have none. Does anybody have any?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to remind everyone that we are in our Blue Santa toy raising period with the police department. You can bring money, our toys, to the police department at any time. We've had a number of different organizations in town that have been very successful in raising both money and providing toys. And for all of those that have been involved with these Blue Santa projects, thank you very much for your efforts. These toys, this money will be spent on very deserving kids, families in our community. This all stays local. This is something worth supporting. If you haven't already contributed toys or money, please think about doing so. And you're still collecting stuff up until
right before Christmas.
till right before Christmas. No, I think they said that they'd really like to have most of it by the 14th.
Generally, but
Yeah, because
take it later.
there's a whole group of ladies that are going to take all of these packages and wrap them. And when you get all those toys going in paper, it takes a while to do. So if you can get it to them earlier, I'm sure they would appreciate it. But I guarantee you nothing will be turned away. If you got a toy, you got money, come on. We'll be glad to use it.
Right, anyone else?
In addition to that, one of the things that really has been helpful to the Blue Santa people, they've been very successful with toys for kids. What they struggle with is having money to buy clothes for older kids, diapers for babies, and stuff like that. So if you can provide to Blue Santa money, a donation of some sort, so they can go out and buy the necessary clothes that are needed for some of the kids, that would be helpful. and the diapers and the tools that are needed for small infants. That would be helpful also. I understand you had a great Christmas tree lighting. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend that. I was in New York, so I got to see plenty of lights. But I understand that everyone had a great time, and I'd like to thank the community for coming out and supporting that effort.
Thank you. I did remember something just now. I believe the Lions Club has a blood drive
Yes,
on the 14th.
yes.
Yes, give blood. I think you have to wait 6 months, right? I don't think I can give blood this time around.
Have you been out of the country in the last 6 months?
No.
You're good?
3 months? All right, well, I'll sign up
Yeah,
then.
you're
If you have
good.
double reds, you can do it quite often.
I don't know. Anyway, there's a blood drive December 14th.
Mayor, I have one more item. While we're in this area, I want to do a recognition of a couple different groups. City Engineer Eric Belay and his team put together an application to the LCRA, Lower Colorado River Authority, for a grant that LCRA does for their communities. Our project is for a leak detection survey, utility repairs, and replacements based on those repairs. Last year, we were fortunate enough with our team to receive a wonderful large check, and that's fantastic. And this year, they've come back and they have another one of those really large checks. So they would like to present the check to the city council and take a picture to commemorate this process. So they have Stacy Pandley and George Russell here to present the check to the council in the amount of $65,000.
If I could say just a couple of quickie words, I'm going to make you earn the $65,000. Again, I have the privilege of sitting on the Water Conservation Committee of LCRA. We put together the grant program a number of years ago to award people for conserving water. Quite honestly, water is a finite quantity, and we can run out. So anything that cities and communities can do is very, very important to us. As a former city manager, I was excited to see your grant application because water leaks and the related, I'm sorry, God. Water leaks and the related costs that go along with it used to drive me up the wall because we were continually doing it. So you have put together a comprehensive program. We are honored to be able to cost share with y'all in this project. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Russell.
You too.
That for you. You good? Have that one. I didn't do any work. I think I signed it. Sorry.
With me, they like it like that.
All right, on the count of three, take a few, ready? 1, 2, 3. And a couple more here.
I can't keep it in that long.
There you go.
Thank you. Y'all have a good one. Thank you very much. Thank you.
George, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Have a good night. There you go.
So, Mayor, even though they take the big fun check, they did leave us this check today. But again, thanks to LCRA, they don't have to do these programs. It is a beneficial grant program. Thanks to Eric and his team for taking the time to get not only get a project out, but to get funding to support the project. We're real excited. So we'll be bringing this back to council so that we can process that. But this is the good part where we get to receive the money.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else with items of interest? All right. So public hearing and possible action. The Lago Vista City Council is holding a public hearing to discuss and consider action on ordinance number 19-12-05-01, an ordinance of the City Council of Lago Vista, Texas, amending Appendix A fee schedule, Article 3.000, building-related fees, to amend Section 3.100, building permit fees, Article 5.000, subdivision fees, Section 4.200, peddlers, solicitors, and certain temporary vendors, Article 6.000, utility-related fees, to amend Section 6.100, impact and tap fees, and Section 6.200, utility rates and fee, providing an effective date, repealer, severability, proper notice, and open meetings clause. And the public hearing is currently open. And we will start with the staff presentation.
Thanks, Mayor. So this is the second hearing that the City Council will review the utility rates and increases that were presented at the last meeting. Staff has not received any comments during the last meeting and this meeting other than the comments that were presented during the public hearing on November 20-something. Thank you, 21st. So what we did change is we did make the changes that Mayor Pro Tem made at the last meeting, and that increased the bulk, the higher users as was requested. Just trying to tell us the page on that one, but it's
35,
not loading.
Page 35.
What we did was we increased those rates by 21 cents per 1,000 gallons based on the same increases for the first three categories. Those are the only changes that have been made of any substance, Mayor.
All right. I'm sorry?
Those changes are on page 8, but that's not.
I'll point out one more time, Mayor, that the base rate for residential water is proposed to stay the same. And then the use rates, going back to the LCRA comment, they're based on your actual use. So that's where the increases will come in.
Correct.
So base rates staying the same, and the base rate of $36.52 covers your first 2,000 gallons. So any household using less than 2,000 gallons pays that $36.52 rate. And so that the lower users do not see an increase, but then you'll see in the chart that anyone using anything greater than 2,000 will see the increase of approximately 21 cents per 1,000 gallons of usage on that first 5,000.
So Nelissa's not here to answer questions. But does anybody recall, I know this was a question that came up, why were we increasing the actual usage rates instead of the base rate?
Mayor, yeah, so based on the last study and this study, we kept the same principles that were maintained constant in terms of the base rate paying for the debt service and then the use rate paying for the actual operations. And so one of the primary factors is to deter excessive use. You know, that's one of the things we've seen. We've talked about this a number of times, but we've seen the use by our individual households going down, even with the rising number of households. And so we're still discouraging high use.
Questions? Nope. All right. This is a public hearing, and I do have a few people that have signed up, so we will go to those at this time. First I have is Kevin Sullivan, and Kevin, you get 6 minutes because there's an Anita Cunningham that has given you her minutes.
Okay, great, thanks, and I hope not to use all of it.
And you don't have to put 6 up there, you just do 3 twice if it's okay. I know,
Kevin Sullivan, 3933 Outpost Trace. Mayor and Council, I very much appreciate you giving me the time to chat. David, you could put it over to the third one. I'll just jump into it. The first point I wanted to make is that there's really not a need for an increase. A balanced budget has already been passed, and it shows that we already have a sizable surplus in both the general and the utility fund. Any increase in utility rates will only cause more citizens' money to go into the city's bank accounts. That's the only effect that it will have. If you do this properly during the budget process, you would increase the water rates as necessary, but you would also decrease the tax rate. If you don't do that, you're double dipping, okay? Because we already have the tax rate higher to cover the drop in the utility, okay? So there's really no reason to do it. The second point I'd like to make, Dave, the next one if you would, over the last couple of years, the council has taken the opportunity to lower golf member rates, golf daily fee rates, and the golf cart storage rates. The previous council approved rates that required the airport POA to have their access rates at least keep up with inflation. The current council then changed that and approved lower rates for the airport special interest that didn't keep up with inflation. So I guess my question is, why does it make economic sense to lower rates for special interest, but not for citizens, all of whom use utility and services every day? Neither golf nor the airport pay their own way, but we're lowering their rates. How does that make any kind of economic sense? The next one, needs versus wants. Golf and airport services are nice to have wants in a small town like Lago Vista. Water and wastewater services are needs. People use these every day. They have to have them for their survival, okay? Why do we have special interests getting preferred treatment for wants while everyday citizens have higher rates for their needs? The next thing I wanted to talk about came from that paper that I shared with all of you guys. Revenue stability has to be the #1 priority for a utility department. Reason being, if you can't keep a economically viable water and wastewater system, you don't have a city, okay? Pure and simple. Why are our policies putting conservation before revenue stability? Conservation is exactly what punitive rates are driving. And in a minute, I'm going to show you some things that'll show you just how punitive our rates are. Utilizing punitive volumetric rates is a failed strategy. We've tried it for the last 5 years, and it hasn't worked. Even with a humongous amount of growth of new households, it hasn't accomplished what it was supposed to. If a drought situation does occur, next one, Dave, we passed our WCPs and our DCPs in the last year and a half, okay? Those things will make sure that we do not abuse the use of water if the lake is low. If the lake's not low, it's no big deal that we use that water. But if they do, we have plans in place that prevent us from doing that. So I guess my question is, with all this that I've just mentioned, why are we so focused on conservation? I just don't get it. We ought to be much more focused on revenue stability. So now, if you would, here's the rate comparison. It's for the first 2 that I looked at. I looked at 9 other municipalities besides Lago Vista. And if you look up there, you see the ranges. It's got Lago Vista as it is right now. It's got Lago Vista proposed, and then we go into Point Venture. Not everybody uses the same ranges that we do, so I had to kind of jigger the spreadsheet a little bit. But you see that Point Venture, for example, they have a base rate of 35. They include 10,000 gallons, okay? And then they do have a volumetric rates that allow us to try and make sure that they don't use too much water, but it's not punitive like ours are. Take a look at that. Our rates are 2 and 3 times theirs in some instances. Same thing with Jonestown, $30 for their base rate, and it's $4 no matter how much you use. It's $4 is the maximum they charge. This is the reason why I wanted you guys to see this. I know Dick and Don, you both, last time raised those rates. Those guys are using all our water. But I don't think you knew just how punitive our rates are compared to other municipalities. If you would go to the next one, you see Lakeway and Georgetown here. Again, they're working on revenue stability with their base rates, and they do still have some conservation in there. But again, take a look at their volumetric rates. They are nothing like ours. They're half, okay? In some cases, less than half. If you go to the next one, where we've got Cedar Park and Leander, well, look at Leander. They're like Jonestown, where it's $4.99, one for everything. But again, they're focusing on base rates, and their volumetric rates are 1/3 to 1/4 of ours. One more, the Manor, Round Rock, Pflugerville, some of these towns are much larger than us, okay? And I get that. So their rates are going to be different. The last one's probably the biggest one, and I'll talk about it in just a minute. But you take a look, these guys are looking at revenue stability with their base rates and not being punitive with their volumetric rates. I think what you might find, and I'll have it in a second, you may find if you drop the rates back to reasonable amounts, people will water the yards and you'll actually generate more revenue, and people will be happier, okay? If you would, go to the last one, Austin, okay? Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, this one right here. This is the one that was closest to ours, okay? I got a feeling that Melissa saw what Austin did and just came out and gave us something very similar. They're the only ones close to punitive rates like what we have, and we're even worse than Austin. And if you notice, you take a look at their base rate for both sewer and water, very, very low, 725 and 1030. Of course, we can't match that. We don't have the density that they do. But the bottom line is our rates are more punitive than the city of Austin. Uber liberal, uber conservative, uber conservation minded. Is that what we want to do? Is that right for our small town? Okay, is what I would ask you to think about. Okay, so last one, if you would, Dave, I appreciate it. One more. Yeah, there we go. So here's what I'm asking. Don't pass this current rate increase, please. Okay, leave the current rates in place. You already passed the budget. It's already a balanced budget. There's no reason to change it at this point. All you would do is put more money in the city's pockets, taking it out of ours and putting it into the cities. And I don't understand why we want to do that right now. But what I also suggest is do a very serious study of the usage patterns of people prior to us putting in the punitive volumetric rates and after, okay? My guess is what you'll find is 90% of the people stopped irrigating 100%. Okay, just stop entirely. And we're generating no revenue from irrigation from those people. And that's a problem because we put the infrastructure in place anticipating they would irrigate, okay? And we're getting no revenue from them on that whatsoever. So do a survey, do a analysis and come up with rate structures that are fair to the citizens, okay, but still encourage utility department revenue stabilization. You got to do this prior to the budget cycle. Okay, because you want to know this and you want to know what your rates are going to be set during the budget cycle so you know what to set the tax rate at. Because if you jack up the water rates and you think you're going to get more revenue that way, there's no need to keep the tax rate as high as it is.
Okay, well, your time's up.
Okay, did I do 6 minutes?
Yeah. No? Oh,
Okay.
I just saw it flash up there.
Okay, anyway, bottom line is that's all I have. I would highly encourage you to.
I have a question.
Sure.
You know, you were showing us the slides of all the others.
Yeah.
One thing I couldn't see is how much on their budget for their utility fund, how much of that was for debt?
I apologize, I didn't look that up, Mayor. I mean, I took about an hour to go to various websites and pull this up. I figured, quite frankly, this should be coming from the staff, not be giving it to the staff. So I didn't look that up.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Because I know in a large part of our study, a large part of the issues with our rates is because we have such a large debt associated with the water treatment plant.
Right.
3 and water intake number 3 and
I get that, but my assertion would be that we've made our rates so punitive that people aren't using the water, and we're actually generating less revenue because we've made such punitive rates. We won't know that until we study it very seriously, in my opinion.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
I've got a comment, Mayor. Can I make a comment?
Yes, I don't want to really get into a discussion
Keep smiling,
on this,
big guy,
but-
because you and I get into some stuff and I love them. But I don't want to do that tonight because there are about 8 or 9 different points you made that I don't think are correct.
Fair enough.
One of which, I know, but I don't want to argue with you tonight. I'm just making the point that
okay, so
one of the points that he makes.
He's speaking. His time is up, so I have to excuse him at this point. But once we get through with the rest of the speakers,
super.
If you have comments that are pertinent to the vote that will be taken tonight, we need to hear your
All right.
comments.
Super.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Appreciate the time.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mayor.
Yes. Christina Lucero.
Christina Lucero, P.O. Box 5464. Part of that debt was a golf course and a mansion, and as well as, yes, intake centers and such. The slide up there that you guys had that is in the packet is only showing for 1920, And you asked, why isn't the base rate being raised 36.52? If you go down and follow the next 4 years, because it's a 5-year plan, they actually do go up in quite a bit. So even the base rate goes up, all of them go up. Some of them even end up doubling within the next 5 years. So it's a considerable increase. And again, property taxes and this all should not be done at the same time. Maybe we could do like a year approval at a time and then relook at it. Also, another thing too, instead of adopting in the full 5-year plan that Melissa had talked about, another thing too would be to look at our future CIP, because that does figure in our costs. Look at our needs, look at our wants. What is on there that we can take off that will ease this burden to the taxpayers? Because it is going to be a huge one, especially within 5 years. So that is my concern.
Thank you. I believe we are only considering one year.
There's no 5 years to this.
Yeah, so there,
It was a 5-year plan that she presented, but we're only looking at the fee schedule for 1 year. All right, that is all that I have signed up for agenda item number 1. Is there anyone who would like to address council that did not sign up? All right. Yes.
Would you mind just putting the slide back up? I didn't see the irrigation below it. I just saw the residential usage, but not the
Oh,
irrigation.
okay.
If you may.
And
There's
the
just,
sewer
if there is something.
also, the sewer portion.
Okay.
Let's go further down.
The irrigation, the base is still 3652.
Sewer base is going up.
And if you're looking at this.
If I may. Paul Roberts, 5312 Mirror Lago Drive. I have Bermuda grass. I water about, I don't know, there's maybe an acre there. And I get killed on the water. I don't have an irrigation. I learned recently that a possible solution might be going to an irrigation tap, if that's the correct terminology, tap, and is a cheaper way to water my yard, because I get almost $1,400 peak summer. It's expensive. And I just looked at that on the irrigation. That's going to get real expensive for me because I'm over 50,000 gallons.
All the difference is on the irrigation tap, you would not be paying sewer rates.
Okay. So what would the rate, because I'm weighing whether or not to put a straw in the lake or get an irrigation tap. Would that be my rate right there for 2019, 2020, 23, 32 for over 50,000 gallons?
yeah, that's correct.
Yes.
For the irrigation tap to be put into your house.
So when you have that separate meter, if that's the rate you're seeing on the top, just like
Right.
what you'd see on your water, but you have to have the separate meter, so you have to install that tap and meter.
Okay.
So it's separate read.
You answered my question. Thank you, gentlemen.
Mm-hmm. All right, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address? All right. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:26 PM. All right, council, Frank?
Mayor, I've reviewed some economics about what's called the price elasticity of demand, or what happens if you raise the price on a product. And with water, if you raise the price, because there's no competitors and it's a necessity, you will generally get more revenue. So I think one of the issues that Kevin's raised is which side of that rate do you raise? Given what our consultant has told us, I like the conventional wisdom that she's given us. I think some of the stuff that Kevin's brought out about which side, I don't think punitive is a pejorative term. It's a political term even. We don't have punitive rates, period. But I think the conventional wisdom that our consultant gave us is convincing to me. And I think we will get more revenue to pay for O&M and our capital improvements programs based on what she's presented. In my case, I paid a ton this summer to irrigate my green lawn.
Right.
There are 5 more houses that got built in my neighborhood. Braun built them. They all have lawns, and half of them have irrigation systems in them, and I think they're going to be watering.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the issues that the council may want to consider from an economic basis is to change the supply. So I agree with Kevin. I don't know why we're still saying folks can't water more than 2 times a week. With waters in the lake, and if we increase the supply, we might see we get some more revenue. And Mayor, I understand that's on the agenda, but I just make that point. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I too have a problem with the idea of punitive. There's nothing that I've looked at, nothing that I've discussed, nothing I've seen in the last 2 years where we ever talked about being punitive. Now, we've talked about making the people that use more water pay more because that's more of a stress on the system. If you're using 50,000 gallons instead of 2,000 gallons, you're using a lot more of our system. And you should pay for that. Now, as far as why do we want to raise the rates? Yes, we want to put money in our pockets because we have got a whole bunch of things that we're looking at doing down the road to maintain our water and our sewer. It's not stagnant. We're building houses all over the place. The needs, the demands on our water and our sewer are going to increase year after year after year. And if we don't put money aside, if we don't get it in our hands, then we're looking at more of that debt that we're putting on the citizens that I would rather not do. So I understand. I don't like paying big water bills either. I just paid a $300 one. It just irked me. But if I'm going to irrigate my yard, if I'm going to put water in my swimming pool, that's what it takes. If you look at when our water usage turned around, it was during the drought. And we've had an awful lot of people that have gone to xenoscaping instead of their yards. They're now not using irrigation. But they're doing it because it just wasn't worth trying to keep that yard out when the drought was going. Keep it all green and pretty when the lake was down and the threat was that we weren't going to have enough water to drink. Right now, we don't have that problem. But I have not seen anything in the presentation that we looked at, in the discussions that we've had, that were in any way directed as punitive towards our public. What they are directed toward is ensuring that we have the money to do the things that we need down the road. It would be nice if everything stayed the same price. We didn't have to build any more sewer plant. We didn't have to build any more water plant. We never had to worry about water again. That would be fantastic. And then I would say, yes, just keep it all the same price. But it's not reality for our community, and it's not reality for what's going to happen down the road. And if we're going to be able to take care of all of our needs, we need to make sure that we're getting the money that's necessary to make those improvements, to make those changes as they come up. That's
Mayor, can I make one other note that I forgot to mention? The Mayor Pro Tem mentioned at the last meeting about raising the rates or the volumetric rate on the highest 3. Have we done that?
Yes.
I think I
Yes, sir.
heard
Yeah.
that. Yeah, okay, thanks.
Mr. Mayor, can I say something?
Yes.
One of the things that I constantly heard from like Kev and everything else is that we needed to do an impact study, and that it was important to do an impact study. And I studied the impact study, and I remember our consultant coming to us and saying water needs to be able to pay for water, you know? And I remember that sticks in my head. Water needs to be able to pay for water. Now, when I served on council with Kev and Ron, we tried to increase the rate 4%, you know, to try to offset some of the debt that we have. And we're still dealing with the debt, and we're catching up, and that gap is getting smaller and smaller, and water soon will be paying for water. So, you know, Christina said we're looking at a 5-year plan. We're not looking at a 5-year plan. If we can keep the rates the same from in 2021, they're the same as 2020, that'd be great. But I would like to see water pay for water. I have a green grass. My green grass is still green. It will stay green, you know. We are a growing city, and there are going to be people that come into this city that want a green grass. Let them have the green grass, let them pay for the additional water, and maybe we should take the restriction off. I don't have a problem with taking the restriction off. If people want to water 4 times a week, that's fine. I water probably 3 times a week. So I try to keep within the two days on Wednesday and Saturday, but if my grass is going brown, it's going green, and I'll pay for it. All right?
So I
Yes.
have a question. Do we have an actual, we do not have an actual restriction, do we? We just have, the way we're in,
We just ask people to water their yards.
but I think that when we redid our
No, I think.
water plan, did we not?
Mayor, the WCP limits to 2 days a week.
Right.
Yeah.
But,
And that's
so I know but that's the plan. That's the water conservation plan.
Yeah.
So there is no restriction that can be released without going back and completely redoing the water conservation plan.
Well, right now, we're at stage 2 on the water conservation plan. We can go back to stage 1, and it would increase the days.
Yeah, the ordinance, which is based on LCRA's, we'll see how far out of date I am. The ordinance that's based on LCRA's direction about how much water you can use is a function of how much water there is in Lake Travis. We don't need any restrictions on given how much water we got in Lake Travis based on our ordinance. We just haven't changed where we are, and that's a council action. The way the ordinance reads, that's up to us
And
to
the way it
open up the portal, so to speak.
And the way it works now, Mayor, is if someone wants to water additional, then they come in and they request that through the utility department, have to be reviewed and approved. So, yeah, you're spot on. I mean, if council made that change, we could make the change.
Donna calls me all the time.
Yeah.
Donna, did you have a comment?
Isn't it just, LCRA has told us we can only water 2 days a week. That's what we're going to be told from LCRA. It's 2 days a week only. Cedar Park does the same thing, so does Oxford.
If there's restrictions, it's based on the restrictions imposed by LCRA. So we have the ability to raise that and lower that. And that's something where the city's been more aggressive in saying, with our stage 2, this is what you get. This is what our policy says, but goes back to what Frank's saying. If there's water in the lake and LCRA doesn't have a restriction, then the city can allow unlimited use until there's a restriction.
Well, I would have to go back and look at it again. But when Ron Smith and I were looking at this, there were different stages in the water conservation plan. And what we adopted 2 years ago with approval of the water conservation plan was stage 2 water restrictions for the city. Now, it's been a long time since I've read that. And of course, first night Ron Smith hadn't been here, this comes up.
On TV.
But anyway, I would be willing to say that with stage 1 with the stage 1 of our water conservation plan, there are no restrictions on watering. And I think that if I remember the way we wrote that into the conservation plan, it is the decision of the council as to whether we implement stage 1, 2, 3, or 4. So I'm not sure that we
Yeah,
couldn't change that if we want to.
Well, unless LCRA has said something
Well,
that we have to go to a.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
LCRA comes out and says that we've got stage 2 or stage 3, then we have to implement that.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, when Ron and staff was putting this plan together, they purposely made our stage 1 basically what everybody else's stage 2 was.
Yes.
Because we're
one step above it.
yes. And so that when they were entering stage 2 or stage 3, it was not going to have a huge impact on our community because our community was already accustomed to
those
watering
restrictions.
at stage 2 restrictions.
That was the idea.
But yes, it's always something we can look at. And Aaron, I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I have closed the public hearing, but I have someone who would like to speak. Am I allowed to?
You just have to reopen it if that's your choice, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Do you have a comment or a question?
I just want to recognize her.
Question, okay.
So the people at home can hear? Please? I'm trying to decide, I'll go ahead and do it officially. At 7:39, I'm going to reopen the public hearing.
Apologies for my ignorance and not being able to understand the system. With just a question from the background with going back and forth. So my question arose when Mr. Weatherly was, I'm sorry, my name is Diane Chan Yu Pen, 18315 Lakeshore Boulevard. Mr. Weatherly was speaking with regard to the increases being necessary for infrastructure, basically, is what I took it to be, for growth and so on. My question was only that, is there a system in place such that these monies, when they're collected, are they uniquely and exclusively used? Is there a process for setting them aside such that the community is confident that those monies are actually used for infrastructure and not, down the road, we incur more debt because those monies were used for something else temporarily, and then how things get massaged. So that was all. That was just.
Well, that's a kind of a yes and no, and I'll let.
Yep, Mayor, so there's a couple answers there. So the dollars that when revenues exceed expenditures in the fiscal year, then those dollars go back into the fund balance. The utility fund balance is then restricted for utility expenses, just like utility revenues are restricted for utility expenses. If you go back historically in the city, the challenge has been to make sure there are enough revenues to not only cover the operations, but to cover the capital improvements, which mostly have come through bonds. So you want to, that was quick. It was just like a yo. And so it's like a bat signal. So anyway, and so the revenues are restricted for utility account. And then one of the goals is so that you have revenues available for other capital improvements that you may not put into a bond. And so that's where those dollars are earmarked as well. So yes, those are earmarked for utility and for capital.
So does this run on a calendar year?
These rates, Mayor, are fiscal year rates, but the implementation would go through, we put in there that we would start in January, bill in February, first bill be due in March. So council would consider during the next budget session, potential increase or change of rates.
Okay, so, yes, all right. The public hearing is reopened, so.
Kevin Sullivan, 3933 Outpost Trace. The only comment I want to make was about the use of the word punitive. It is pejorative, I agree. You know me, I'm kind of expressive, I do that. But what I would suggest to you is that if there are rates that are 2, 3, 4 times what other rates are, that's punitive. Dick, I'll ask you, if with your membership at the golf course, if it was 2, 3, 4 times what you had to pay at Leander, wouldn't you think that's punitive?
No, I'd go to Leander.
Bingo. And you wouldn't buy it here, okay?
Punished.
But the bottom line is that's punitive. If it's 2, 3, 4 times, I'm sorry, it's punitive. Okay?
Nope.
If you
No,
were to
sir.
address it
All right.
somewhere else,
No,
like
sir.
golf, Frank, if I asked you to pay 3 or 4 times for your
That's
golf
two different
membership.
deals, and I said I wasn't going to argue with you tonight, but if we get into what economics are, well, I'll argue with you, but Mayor, I'm not going to do that.
Okay, fair enough. But I will make one more point with regard to price elasticity. You are 100% right that people will buy for water that they need. That's what they need. What they need is in their household. Irrigation is a whole nother system. And the bottom line is people are not going to pay, he talked about $1,400. Not everybody has $1,400 to pay to irrigate their lawn. That is very inelastic. If you raise the rate on irrigation systems, or the pricing for irrigation, people just stop using it because they don't need it. Water in their home, they need it. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess you could always look at the entire structure depending on your water use. The more you use, the more you pay. So is that punitive? I mean, because you're being punished for using more water. So,
Do you want me to address that, or are you just rhetorical question?
no, just rhetorical.
Okay, fair enough.
You know,
Follow-up question for clarification with what Josh said.
Microphone,
Please come
please.
to the mic.
we have people that watching at home can't hear you.
You're not at the mic.
I forget about that. Just to make sure I understood in your explanation, Josh, that after a year, if any overages in the collection of the fees for water, if after a year, those overages that were somewhat justified for reasons of infrastructure are not used, then those monies can be allocated for other things?
Mayor, so
Did I
it
understand
actually stays, so it doesn't matter after the year. The only reason I say the year is because I'm working on a fiscal year. And so we try to keep the operating count for the utility fund sufficient to cover for the operations, so to cover all the expenses. I use the fiscal year because at the end of the fiscal year, after the audit, any revenues that exceed expenditures then go into utility fund balance or utility reserve account. So then they stay as utility funds till death do us part, till they're spent.
Like a savings.
Exactly.
For
It's the
infrastructure things that normally are done, not on a yearly basis,
Correct.
but you build up to
for
that
utility
need.
infrastructure.
So like a savings, it still goes
Correct.
to-
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to ask Mr. Smith, if he would, could you set me straight if I said something wrong? Please?
I don't know if you heard it.
Did you hear it or?
What'd you say?
He wasn't here, so.
I was listening on TV,
Oh.
and I heard some missteps, and that's why I
Okay.
came up here.
Well, and like I said, the one night that I really need you here to keep it straight, you weren't here, so.
Well, I spoke last time, and I thought you heard me then, so, but if I
well-
need to do it again, I will.
The thing that I'm not sure about, that water conservation plan has been 2 years ago. But when we did that, basically what we established for the city was a stage 2 restriction.
Actually, what we did, Ron Smith, 20609 Oak Ridge, what we did was we looked at the entire LCRA stages.
Yes.
Okay, and when the lake is within, 1,400,000 acre feet, that, most cities can go with unlimited water use. That's what the LCRA plan was.
Yep.
And then there's stages that go down and it drops about every 200 to 400 acre feet when it does it. What we did back then was we had problems with irrigation systems, and code enforcement was driving around trying to enforce, how many times you water a week, and we got down to once a week watering for a period of time. And so what we tried to do was to expand that envelope from full all the way down to when everybody goes to once a week watering. And when they go to once a week watering, we stay on twice a week watering because we gave it up on the top end so we can get it back when the lake goes down. That gives us a 67% lake movement without having to go in and have everybody adjust their sprinkler systems. And you're going to have to do a lot more code enforcement when you go do that. So there's an enforcement cost with going unlimited. Also, if you remember, when I said that, Burnett and Marble Falls lifted all the restrictions to go to unlimited water use, the people didn't do it. They were conditioned to go to twice-a-week watering. So they did not receive any additional funds for CIP or operations because people learned to live with the twice-a-week watering. So we kind of codified that in the water conservation plans where we put that. Now, and we wrote a letter, and we had it posted when the water bills, all that, to tell everybody that we're going to go with year-round, twice-a-week water.
Yeah.
Now, that's still the rule unless you change the rule.
That's it.
You can change the rule, just recognize if you do that, your code enforcement officer is going to be doing a whole lot more work. And if you want to do that, and then you're really not guaranteed you're going to get a lot of extra money for it.
That's it.
I'm not addressing the rate issue. I'm just addressing how we came up with that. And the intent was to stabilize the amount of water that we processed coming in so we knew what our incoming supply was. And then you adjust the rates to get the dollars you need to do it. That was the simplistic approach. And we were trying to fit into a regional river system to make sure that we did our fair share. Now, I realize other people, try to do that. I haven't gone back and talked to Marble Falls and Burnett since then. Maybe they have gone up. I don't know. I could call them if you want me to, but I haven't done it lately. Does that answer your question?
That answers my question.
The answer
Thank you very
to your
much,
question
Rob.
is you are on twice a week watering year-round unless you change it.
Got it. That's
Yeah,
Yes.
question. How does the code enforcement go up if there's no restrictions on when or how many?
Well, that's part of the problem. When the lakes are going up and down and they yo-yo all the time,
Right.
based upon the weather, as that lake goes up and down, then you all have to issue notices to irrigators especially that, hey, you're now restricted to once a week or twice a week. And then when you undo it, you got to reverse when the lakes come back up.
Got it.
So it goes up and down, and so your code enforcement goes up and down with it. Now, is that what you want to do? No. I found it easier to just let people set their irrigation systems and leave them alone.
There you go.
That was the idea until you got to, the emergency stages. Did that answer your question?
Mm-hmm. It did. Thank you, Ron.
Okay.
I knew you'd get me straight.
Okay.
So, speaking about these restricted funds, if they are going to be in the utility enterprise account, how are we going to earmark these and have faith in all of you that that is exactly what it's going to be going towards is our future
Sound like
water
you have no faith.
infrastructure? I'm sorry.
You sound like you have no faith.
Well, I know the word irrigation
No.
system is also on the golf course.
It only uses effluent, right?
Huh?
You keep on wanting to go back to the golf course.
Well, this is $1.5 million. I mean, it's a
We use
considerable
effluent-
amount.
We use effluent water.
Not only, the summer you guys use raw water as well. Y'all ran out of affluent water.
Ran out of affluent.
And I didn't see any water costs on y'all's P&L for the golf course this year. That is something that I would want to know is that you guys are actually doing stuff with the sewer and water pipes. You guys are actually doing stuff with the pumps, the intakes, all of that, treatments, clarifiers, and not the golf irrigation system. I think that would lose a bit of faith for you guys, for our community. So I think those should be restricted funds. And water paying for water, the enterprise funds are actually all pretty much breaking even besides golf. If water wasn't paying for mansions and golf courses, we would have definitely had no problem.
Yeah, Mayor, a great point in terms of how do you create that faith? And one of the things I think we talked about, the comments of transparency, that's why we go through the annual audit every single year, is so that things are combed through and looked at and analyzed, and if there's findings, then that's presented back to council. But again, the restrictions go to each individual fund unless there's a designated transfer. So it really comes down to reviewing that audit and then setting those policies in place like the council did this year and updating that fiscal policy to state how dollars are moved one way or the other.
Anybody else in the audience? All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing again at 7:53 PM. Anybody else?
Well,
Are you ready for action, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Okay, sir.
Because my thought is, and the reason I ask about when these rates go for what year, if whether a calendar or a fiscal year, because reading through Kevin's stuff that he sent us in between the meetings and stuff, I understand the rates and stuff that we are trying to achieve to get our system where it needs to be financially. But I don't like changing our fee schedule mid-year all the time. And the one thing that I agree with Kevin on this is that I don't know that this is the right time of year to be doing this. I think our fee schedule should always be done along with the budget process. And I think for right now, I'd say we stay with what we have right now until we get to the budget cycle, and then we look at it.
Mayor, my point on that is that I think, as the city manager expressed at the last public hearing on this, it was actually part of our budget process, and we discussed when and what, and generally kind of knew how much during the budget process. And so I think we did discuss it, certainly, and we knew that it was going to be later. And I just, I think that's what the manager indicated.
Mayor, that's correct. Yeah, so we had the shortcoming of approximately $600,000. We knew that we wouldn't have the results back from the study in time, and so we didn't want to rush those numbers and not have a complete report back from Melissa Heading. And so we presented it back knowing that our goal would be to implement something at the beginning of the calendar year.
Right, but I don't think our budget, the utility department budget, was based on any numbers because we didn't have the study, so.
Well, correct. It was based on the current rates, therefore $600,000 deficit. So as Mr. Sullivan stated, we did have a balanced budget because you had to balance it using the reserve funds that we talked about earlier. So we took $600,000 out of the savings account to balance our operating budgets for the year. If we didn't have that, it wouldn't exist. So the goal here is if we're generating the additional revenue, then it offsets the $600,000 deficit that the budget was completed with funded. So correct in a number of different ways.
And I would just have to say that all that we do in delaying this is just create more of a deficit.
Anybody else?
I have a question. Would the rate of growth that we're experiencing now offset that deficit that we've experienced this past year?
Mayor, so this discussion we've had for about 2 years, theoretically, the rate of growth would delete that deficit. The problem is, back to that number, we're still not seeing as much usage with the growth that we would expect from the amount of, it's not proportional. And so that's where that deficit still lies in. So with an additional 300 homes a year, we're not closing the gap. So we have to find a way to close the gap between those items.
I'm good.
All right, okay. Anybody else? All right, if I have nobody else, I'm open for action.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve ordinance number 19-12-05-01.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay? Nay. Motion carries 6-1. All right, we will go to agenda item number 2. And let me see, at this time, we are going to go into executive session.
Are you taking the cookies with you?
Are you going to eat any? Then yes. No, you can help yourself to the cookies. So we're going to go into a executive session at 7:59 PM.
I asked that question because I know that there are people out there
Just leave
watching
it.
that will probably
Just leave
ask
it, let it sit.
questions.
All right, number 3.
Yeah.
You know, some of these.
I mean, if you want, you can stop it, turn it off, and turn it back on. And, well, then just let it run.
Don't leave, we'll be back.
You didn't like this one, did you? You did, but these handles don't. No. Unless that little button does something. Yeah, but I think both. Just drops it. 50 cents on the dollar.
I'm going for that.
Thank you.
Good to see you. I heard it says, you got a condition now. You better.
So much more.
I'll tell him. Have a good night.
You too.
So I understand the problem. And this is. There is one transfer, probably. Although. Yeah.
On the phone or something.
I didn't want to carry out public policy longer. I have the LCRA free of charge. They make it and they will literally adjust your sugar supply. LCRA has a program where they do this for you. So something you might want to remember sharing with people. And do you? It's a neat program.
If you know the name of the program.
Yeah, I'll find it.
Email it to me.
I'll be happy. We can go back, okay. Bye-bye.
You better come back with some.
Well, they make, yeah, just to see, well, but those trees, if you look, they really are. Those trees are really growing up out of the creek. I know. Darcy did, and the reason, Sharon, you know why? Because I posted, and someone said, oh, it looks like nothing's going on. Will somebody bring cookies or can I bring cookies? And Darcy said, I'll bring cookies. Well, she was kidding, she was serious. She was serious. She told me it was 3 feet there. Because it costs 3 times the money to survey the trees.
That's what we have to reserve.
If you have trees on the property, they charge.
One of my other sons
No.
Yes, minimum 2 acres, but that's the range of the city gets there. That's from the city ordinance. So there's, so we'll see what happens. One of the things that his realtor said to the people on the conference call on November 25th is that if we just get this done in the next 2 weeks. We'll see. This is a map that I got from but it says so much. So this year, he's not allowed condos. And they all want to buy them. They're shy.
So all that shoreline is.
There's no hotel. He's dropping all zoning requests except for the setbacks. So that's no. This is just something that he sent. Because the application reads this application. We don't know what's going to it would be. Well, BSA is requesting a fee waiver. But there's a family who's in his house all day, 5 days, working in office, trying to get his extensions. And I mean, he's just.
He's telling her that, oh, everybody's on contract, even when, and this, anyway, so that's what's going on there. This is behind my $225. This is gentleman by the usual sky. My house is right here. And this is his house right here, this big lot. Now, 3 days up there. I'm not personally ready to go out there about a person, unless, Diane gets passionate about it, and she wants me to come to the arms and walk her out. Because I'm trying to, I'm fine. What I'm trying to do is be strategic with this guy. Okay, it's more work, but here's the thing, the way to keep him going down, because well, he's not too much as per each other. But it's still like you're here next to my street and it's my lot, it's got this light. He told me, I said, Josh, I said, I never did. That's the thing, he told me that, when you read this after the one, why are you guys doing this again? Why is this even on? And I can't imagine. So this is what happens. It is. And I talked to employees. This is just like you guys have. Well, this is what we have. Oh, no, it isn't what you know to make that. You don't have to. I'm kind of one hand and one hand. Yeah, right. Well,
Okay, if we're our child, the way to get our child to do something correct, do we think we're gonna do the project once so we can get paid, or do we give it back to them to do it right, and then you start getting proposals correct when you don't send them.
So one of the names that you asked, he says, "Well, he says, well, I said, well, how much would a market study cost? How much would a market study cost for like, for this? As little as 2,000? $3,000 or $4,000. These guys should all be doing this for you. I mean, you're gonna go out there and spend millions of dollars, but you don't just up $3,000 to $4,000 for a market to see if your stuff is even viable. He says, they just cut the transit. Here's the thing, just talking to Jim, then you guys got to talk about it on Monday. They didn't hold it all like, but if they did, that's I'm gonna say that again. Yeah. So Jim's property is all of this. See that big large lot? This is all golf course. No. Oh yeah, it's like spaghetti.
All of the acreage that we
So anyway, he can't, this will not get hurt. It's just off, he doesn't need, like Roy says, so they go below grade, there's no. Jim gives it 50 down to shades. Yes, they're.
I know.
So
It is, to know numbers about this. I do numbers on all of
Right, yeah, that's where, right, so they have.
Oh, the microphone.
So, I asked Joe to send me something on that. And well, the only reason I he was trying to, oh, I know what he was doing. He's trying to neutralize the whole. Right. Exactly. Oh, yeah. Oh, I know that. So all this now, I said, Joel, we can't do it here. Looking down, I said, 3 lots are all around me. That's a big lot, right next to Diane. I said, what are you gonna do with these rights here? So that's gonna be 14. Those will be, if state comes down, I was like, oh, right, cool, state lots. How big are these state lots gonna be? He said, 100 feet. I looked at my thing, I said, all of your
And then up here behind the high school, which is up here, is all going to be, combat zero, which is what's currently zoned. I was hoping, he sent me, I got it like, after the meeting started, he sent me this, I told him, I said, Josh, send me. What is that?
The dedication plan.
Oh, okay. This is one point sharing.
Dave,
This is one of his existing.
when I'm glaring at you, you should feel it.
Yeah, he's at wall.
Do they sell a government version of
Well, actually, they do.
Then you just move that out.
Take that, Eric's.
One time?
Put walls in, do your interior.
I'll buy it for myself.
Why can't you
Is
get what
that
I
pro
got?
or standard?
That's wild.
I'll pay for it out of my budget. I use it just constantly. I'm having to go to my laptop now.
Do it.
What to do? What if these ain't coming out of my budget? For sure.
Well, I made just for me, I may buy a product. Well, I'm starting to wonder, you know, see, I mark up and add comments, draw comments. I don't think Stanley does that.
I'm not into these.
Here's what I need, okay? I have nothing.
Why does it keep giving me my?
But I have it on my laptop.
I wouldn't want to, it's not.
I have 10 Pro on my laptop.
Right, but I'd rather have this, honestly, that's the estate. That's the standard.
Definitely.
Well, I'm using my laptop now, but it's
So
slowing
now,
down.
further, the next thing.
Because I can't even answer the phone anymore on my laptop. And then I waste time calling people back instead of talking to them while I work and not really listening. That's what I normally do. So, yeah, whatever.
Concrete surfaces are short.
I don't want to sign it.
So the elephant needs to be a conduit. If you notice the road is stubbed off.
Yeah, you definitely do that. How come I'm telling people?
Well, here's,
Hey, Robin.
This way. They were gonna
This is Mossy Hollow, my house, Diane's.
And it was gonna take off. Over a lot.
So.
I got somebody that can, you know, I got.
next time you're not gonna be here.
I just made a Gmail for our next business.
That's big undeveloped top floor.
Well, it does to everything else, but not this. I probably pushed the wrong button. Are you gonna eat when you come home, or? You need to email today.
Well, I need to figure out whether I can do a standard. Can I mark up? I can draw arrows and type on top of it.
Tell me.
I understand, I've never seen the new standard. I've always had. I'm worried what function.
You can use your.
They have like a demonstration on their website or something?
Personally, I would just get this. That'll be interesting.
I know, but I think it's a waste of money. I need to use your machine.
Import Word, create a PDF, create a blank PDF from scratch, create a
The
form.
main thing is the markups and the drawings. I need the drawing.
Because I draw on top of their other, you can do all of that. I draw on top of other people's drawings. Yeah, well, I think the only one of the biggest problem is irrigation reasons. And that's what I said, I do, can you do, I do digital some of that. But no, we have to buy that separate. So I'm really sure. You know, the question I have on the internet is depending on how much.
Or have water and power process.
So you have the city with some water, or you can provide some of that. That was a digital. Well, I signed a lot of documents with, text documentation. Maybe I'm doing the signature. When you look at your, no, I think it was doing that time that you can do it. I think the standard, you see curves on the side of it. Everything, the biggest chunk goes to the school district, and then the next biggest chunk goes to the county. Well, that, yeah, but that, I think that's just a change. So it's digitally certified, signed on such and such a date, and such and such. Right, because that's what text does. That's what, they want all that. I don't know how he did it. As long as it does that, I think. There's one other thing, I mean, I did cost $600,000. Irrigation was the difference, so he'd been the one to ask. He was insistent on the program. So I got, like I said, my only thing is I have a program, so I wonder what I'm losing, I don't know. You'd have to go. They have a thing on their website. But they don't. No, you might have to do a Google search for the difference between pro and standard. Oh, we just learned that on the website. I haven't, spoken to those two items yet. 2018. I will give you an update either way. I don't want to call you later and say, I'll send you a text. All right, I'm pretty sure I can. So the real revenue on that, it looks like that's about 200. After you take out the property units, it's around $200,000. It's worth it.
Is that coming out of yours?
Yeah, so 4 years in, you get some third. I'd buy that. That's a, I mean, you read the line, it says you are.
How much can I push if I'm gonna give this?
I get it. I get it. Yeah, I mean, I have the old, the creative suite that runs on Windows 7, and that's why I have that one. Creative suite, I think that's that's $800. Right, no, I have a professional license, but it won't run on Windows. I wouldn't like to install it here. I use it constantly. The things I use Photoshop for, I do it at either at home, just to help, but Acrobat I use all day long. You let me know what you want. Thank you. Roy, how was your day today? Well, thank you. Did you approve more applications than you denied? What? Did you approve more? Nope. You don't want to know? I thought you.
Tell him not to tell me.
Okay, you told me, so I won't tell you though.
Roy, don't tell me anything. I need to put a sign up.
Yeah. Well, that's what they told me, the one that they said that you want that one, but it starts with me. Now, that was a friend of mine, he might have confused them.
You know what, things may not go away, you're gonna see our gyms, they all talk about property rates. Jeff offered the land, I think the land is water too. They cut it.
Took the other way.
Boy, don't call no score, man, I'm recording.
Are you recording it?
Yep. For these people that hate football.
I bought that up to pass now. Didn't matter. I don't hate football, I just don't.
I don't understand why we can't move the council meetings to Wednesday night during football season.
What?
Why can't we move the council meetings to Wednesday night during football season?
They have to do it when charter.
Would they?
I can't remember what it says in the charter.
Really?
Specific. It just says twice a
Yes, we should, during football season, we'll move council.
But then we have to come back to.
So I think that would have been. Didn't think about that. Well, I think to combat that, what they ought to do is time to speak is 1 minute, no 3 minutes. During football season, you got 1 minute and then shut the hell up and close the public hearing. I kept going, close it, close it. Yeah.
How can they still do this?
Oh, good. I was just gonna ask if there's any way why not this. Yeah, I'll bring that up.
Yeah, 'cause I was missing.
Well, I think go that way. I didn't realize that. They're very, very. I mean, I think that they were supposed to be. We're hopping between.
We're hopping I say de-annex one house, there's only 3 houses. I say de-annex one and not the other 2. We need to come to a consensus first. Do we all want to be de-annexed or not?
I muted the mic. I muted the mic.
Oh, did you?
So that means nobody at home can hear you talk.
I didn't even think about that. I was over council meetings.
But I muted them.
Thank goodness.
Because I'm like, well, what are you gonna do? We'll leave it running. I was like, okay. And I was like, from here.
Yeah.
And mute all the microphones.
Hey, fella. We were wondering when
He just appears.
No, I deliberately disappeared because I had my say last week and then I listened to them on TV and they like forgot it. And I was like, I can't, everything I said tonight, I said 2 weeks ago. So I just said that. I think what happened was Dick felt he was in the box and he didn't have this security blanket.
Yeah. He was glad when you go through the door, I could tell.
What did you find out about your phone?
Well, did you hear him tonight? They said, parking for the police department. So I guess that's, to be determined. By the way, it's nice. Pulled that up on the internet.
No, I don't mind that. I don't mind either.
He said it disappeared though.
Yeah. I don't know about that. I just remember seeing that. So I did a save as, put it on the desktop, and then I hit the print button from the desktop. I thought you might be interested. There were people that had copies of this in the room. I saw it on TV. I was looking at the copy. Well, I know what that is.
I should have. I called him and asked him, see.
The other 3.
I wasn't, I asked him for that staff, he didn't let it take my dog.
Just because of that. It's.
And I asked, they didn't about this shit during the last.
They know
So y'all are out of it.
That would
Pretty
cover
much.
that.
Well, you really don't want to hear, that's what I used to hate to do, was when I would hear from the citizens, before I'd hear from. I mean, even if it's bad news, I mean, even if it's like, somebody went off the piece, I'd much rather know it in advance. I mean, you used to put
That's
stuff,
why.
you used to put stuff like that all the time, so
Y'all
at least
know.
Until somebody started posting it on the internet.
that's even faster. But at least we,
I used to tell you all those things when
police report until you started broadcasting.
Well, and if we had something sensational, I always wanted to let y'all know, just in case.
And as soon as he did that, you stopped.
Yeah, I said,
I didn't blame you, but I mean, that's not right. I would never, I said, to me, that was always just an email, FYI. That's not this is your golden broadcast to the world. You have to use some judgment on this.
Yeah. Well, that's why sometimes I call Ron. Say, hey, just so you know, yeah, this, I know we had that, officer was really, I would kind of read the whole deal on that.
Yeah, but I always knew that, when you get the personnel issues, you know, careful with that.
I tell you what, when I heard that they was posting that shit, you gotta be careful.
Well, if you do, so I erred on the side, so I was expecting to say, yes. That's what I was expecting you to say, and you come out. Look at the cost.
Well, we were talking about it today, I was telling Dave, if you're actually talking about, I get they need to expand the range there. Right there, from Bonanza going down there, there's no way to run that.
Well, you can, it's gonna back up on the or come back in front of City Hall.
Well, but the only way, we were looking at, the only way that would possibly be feasible is if we ended up having to buy those lots, so that's what Bel Angelo was decided when we built the damn thing.
We lost opportunity, just like we lost, I wanted to buy Main Trail, the burn center. That's where I wanted the Green Center to go. And I told John, when he first checked in, I said, go get that one, it's 29 acres. Take it out yours. Take it out your city manager reserve. Just get the damn thing. We'll figure it out later. Just get it. And they didn't do that. Now it's like overpriced now.
But that was perfect back there, that road was long enough to accommodate that.
We had the black cap fire hydrants there already, so we could pressure those things. I looked this stuff over, and 29 acres, more than enough to do everything.
Could have done all the way. Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah. So you could do it all in one stop, but this is not the plan.
Well, remember too, at the time, we used to do the burns in Cody Park and remember when people started ashes. So we couldn't do it there anymore, but that was perfect. Nobody even complained.
Well, the thing is, you've gone there first, the people that builds around you back with it, knowing it's there. It's a pre-existing condition.
I have no idea.
I think they're talking about.
You told them about my house, and he said, I'm expecting that. Well.
Roy, you've been awful quiet this evening.
Did you give me my form? Just sign, Sandra? Who has my form?
It's hot out. We get to it.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It is warm.
One way or the other. Yeah, it was cold back there. It's warm up here.
All right, we ready, Sandra? Are we going back on TV? Yeah.
We never
Oh,
left.
never left. Okay. We're back. All right. We reconvene from executive session back into open session at 8:31 p.m. And I know Sandra said she wanted to stay here till 6.
Tomorrow?
She didn't say, she said 6, so I'm shooting for 6 a.m.
Yep, we'll have you home early, that's what you said.
All right, we are on, what are we on? Number 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding ordinance number 19-12-05-02, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, disannexing an approximately 4.032 acres out of land situated within the O. Henderson Survey, abstract number 2709, recorded in document number 20160084, official public records, Travis County, Texas, in the corporate limits of the city, providing for the following findings of fact: disannexation of territory, effective date, filing, severability, and property notice and meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt you at this point, but we did make note for the record that there was no action taken out of executive session, sir.
Oh, okay. So how do I note that? No, there was no action taken coming out of executive session. Yes?
Yes.
Do I have to read number 2 again?
No, sir.
Okay. I can do it.
Mayor, if you don't mind.
Backwards, meeting and notice,
I'll go
property
ahead and
and.
tell you about this item.
Okay.
So this, we're bringing this to the council, Mayor, as part of a conditional offer to purchase the property. And one of the requests is that we disannex the property. If the city doesn't own it, then we don't really see that we're going to have a use within the municipal limits. So we're requesting the disannexation of the property located at 18001 Marshall's Point.
All right. Questions, comments from council? All right, none. Anybody from the audience? Questions, comments? Yes. Oh, wait. No, I don't have anybody signed up. That's the next number. That's number 3. But yes, if you would like to.
Paul Roberts, 5312 Mirror Lago Drive. Just a quick question. I understand that the one of the conditions was the de-annexation is a condition of the buyer's contract if the city cannot provide city services, water, sewer, et cetera. Is there am I mistaken?
Slightly, but go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to ask, if that's the case, is there, I hate to see the city tax revenue be given up, from the property taxes, by de-annexing. At what point?
It was an either or. It was an either or.
If you don't de-annex, the cost to put it in, how long would it take to recapture that cost if you chose that path?
Mayor, roughly 200 years.
Yeah,
it's just that disproportionate. Okay, that was my question.
Yeah,
Go ahead. 200 years.
we don't have to provide or extend water and sewer lines to every place we annex. Okay, that's essentially laid out in the annexation service plan when we annex it. So essentially, if you want city water and sewer, here it is, if you're in the city, and we have to get it to you, but you get to pay for it.
Okay.
Normally, but in this case, that was one of the conditions they put in the contract, was they ask us to either pay for it or disannex them.
All right, cool, thanks.
Anybody else? Yes.
Just a quick question, how much would
It's the people at home. All 3 of them.
I had a question with regard to what the purchase price is offered. What purchase price is offered for the house?
Mayor, it's 1.85 million.
1.85, and the city paid for something?
Mayor, the city for the entire property, including the access to the right-of-way, was 3.7 million.
So the award was for 3.74 million. Of that 3.74, the house was valued at 2.6.
So 1.8.
Yes.
The proceeds from the sale, will they just go into the general fund?
Yes.
Thanks.
Unless,
Why not utility? That's where it came from.
Mayor, if the house sells and we get a check just like this or a wire, we will bring that back and the council can determine where to locate the dollars, whether that's a utility fund, whether it's a general fund, or whether it's a catfish fund. The council will direct us where to put it.
yeah, it doesn't automatically get put into a fund. We have to decide what fund to put it in.
Would that be an agenda item?
Yes.
And they would take care of the $650,000 deficit.
For 1 year, 3 years. Anybody?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand, but if at least significant portion of that amount went into the utilities, then it would take care of the deficit currently that was part of the discussion in talking about the water rates, the 650 some odd
Yes.
thousand, then that could be taken away in a fell swoop.
Yes, that 600,000 is per year though, so it would be about 3 years worth. Yes. Yes, Christina.
So it was bought with a water emergency fund bond, a certificate of obligation bond. Why wouldn't it go back to water utilities?
I don't believe the bond was designated emergency water.
It totally was.
It was just, I mean, it was an emergency bond, but I don't think it said
You don't just get an
water.
emergency bond without having some sort of a public safety type of a thing happening. Otherwise, you would have to vote on it.
Yeah, I would have to look up the details on the bond sale again, but I don't believe it was strictly tied to just water.
Mayor, if it goes through if the property sells, I guarantee you we'll make it an action item, and I'll get all the information and bring it back to council to discuss it. Not the disannexation item, but it'll be its own item that everyone will see.
And not a golf irrigation system, please.
Again, you constantly go there like we have to focus on golf. We haven't been focused on golf. Excuse me?
Okay. So, anybody else? All right. Anybody on council have any? All right, at this point, I'll accept action.
Yeah.
It's an action item.
Mayor, I make a motion that we table this item.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to table this item. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion is tabled. Do I set a date with that?
It wasn't in the motion, Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
but we can bring it back, the item.
Do we need to do that?
Not right now.
Okay.
Sir.
Just want to make sure. Number 3, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding zoning fee application request for waiver.
Mayor, we received an email from Brian Atlas of BSA Development requesting a waiver of the application fees for a possible zoning application. The request that I received via email stated that Mr. Atlas spent over $500,000 in preparing a previous application that was submitted to the city council for the water lights property. The estimated fees for this application could be approximately $7,182. The zoning application fees are based on the total total amount of acreage. So it's $250 as a fee plus $50 per acre. The city does not have an application from Mr. Atlas or for anyone else for this property at this time. So the number is completely based off of the previous water lights request. In a discussion with Mr. Atlas earlier today, he stated that his concern was he's gone through these processes with the city before a number of times and is asking for your consideration so that he can submit an application to the city and not have this financial burden once again.
Comments, questions? I mean, I understand the request, but I don't think that's something that we should grant.
I would ask a question of our city manager and possibly Roy. Is this something that we've done for other developers when they have come up against something, had to withdraw their initial proposal and then come back and put in another proposal? Is this something we've done in the past?
Mayor, let me answer first thing. So it'd be one thing if we considered the withdrawal and the council allowed someone to withdraw their application. But if they withdraw it, then they're going to have to start the process again. And so they would have to do something similar. since it wasn't withdrawn,
It was denied.
it was voted on by council as submitted, then that one's a little different. It's possible. I'm not sure if Roy knows if we've done that before, but the stipulations are a financial hardship would be why you would have a fee waiver. I don't know historically if we've waived any of that based on
I've never
withdrawal.
known us to waive a fee for.
Yeah, Danny and I are looking at each other from 2007 to 2013. We had several of these and the council denied them all.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know.
Anybody else? All right. I have some people that have signed up. Christina Lucero.
Question, isn't there like a year, since it was not withdrawn, it was actually denied, isn't there like a year before they can do another
Not if they come with a
application?
different application.
Same property, though?
Substantial differences.
I mean, every time we saw this presentation, it was substantial differences. So, I mean, and $7,000 for, I mean, true, I think it should go to this guy right here. I mean, he was worn down after all of that happened. And
I agree.
And I mean, the way he looks today versus the way he looked last meeting is day and night. So, I mean, the way that this guy had to like deal with 8 people on the north side talking to him every day. I mean, kudos to you, dude.
So did you have an opinion or were you just?
7,000 to him. I'm just kidding. I say not.
Paul Roberts.
We don't even entertain it.
To her point, I mean, what an enormous waste of city resources. No market study, except for the one on the hotel that said it wasn't feasible. I'm going to stick to my talking points. There is no application even before the council at this time, so the waiver request is in and of itself premature, patently premature. The zoning rules must be applied uniformly, and Atlas cites nothing, absolutely nothing, in the city's rules or policies that would support his being given a waiver or any future PDD or zoning change applications. If any waiver of fees is to be made, such a waiver should be extended to community service entities like perhaps the fire department, not to a for-profit developer like Brian Atlas, BSA Development, et cetera. Mr. Ray just a moment ago made reference to perhaps a circumstance of hardship might warrant waiving the fees. My God, do we really want a developer coming in here who's got hardships to come up with $7,200? But it's nonsense. Anyway, I'm opposed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That is all I have signed up to speak. Yes, just had to make sure. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this one? So, Frank, I think I recall something. I believe we waived $10 or $100, or we granted somebody, we only charged them $10 or $100, and that was on a affordable housing apartment complex, part of the request that
Okay, yeah,
went
that's
to the thing.
after 13. So you may.
But I just happened to think of that. There was
Yeah.
something that when we gave the resolution, it had to say we're only going to charge them so much, or we're going to give. We just had to give something. We gave them something really minimal, like $10, something like that. I don't remember. But
I don't know about that one, Mayor. That was after I left your employment.
You're spot on.
But we actually did grant somebody something.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, this council granted a hardship request for a waiver of a $250 variance fee in 2018.
Oh.
So,
For fits? Oh.
Was that one we had to do all that work on to get everything in compliance?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that was, there were, yeah, I mean.
There
it
was
wasn't-
multiple factors involved with that.
Okay, so there's two.
There was historic issues about permits
And there was
how
all,
did it get to be this way?
yeah.
I don't think
There was some real
either-
questions about whether it was their fault or our fault or where
I don't
it came
think-
from.
I don't think this is anywhere close to either one of those situations.
Mr. Mayor, I don't see this as a hardship case, you know? I mean, I don't understand. I had the unfortunate thing of having to sit through Roy with P and Z on this and then with city council on this several times. And each time, the package was different from what we had that we were looking at. Now, if you can build some sort of complex that's as big as what they were trying to talk about, $7,000 is a drop in the bucket.
And just to be clear, the applicant did not state anything about a hardship. That was just city manager saying the only reason we would ever do something like that
It's for hardship.
is in a case.
Okay. I got very to say.
Anything else?
Nope.
Coming to the speaker.
Again, if you're gonna speak, you gotta get up.
Come on.
If you want, you can just stand up and then you just don't sit down and.
No, but you
No,
gotta
you gotta
do
go
it
to
in
the
front of
mic.
speak. You gotta do it in front of the mic.
No, I was wondering, because I neglected to print out some part of the agenda items. Was in this request to forgive the fee, was there a written proposal submitted as to justification or reasons or any kind of support for why? Or are they just saying, please forgive my $7,000 fee?
Mayor, I received an email from the applicant that stated the request and stated that he had previously put in an amount of money into a previous application.
That's it.
I see no justification for this non-application.
Right, if nobody has any further questions, comments, it's open for action.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we decline this request.
Second.
I have a motion to decline and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion is declined unanimous. No, the motion is not declined.
The request.
The request has been declined. Right, consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are to be considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion on these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Approval of the October 18th, 2019 special called and November 7th, 2019 regular council meeting minutes. And which one does this pertain to? Paul?
This is regarding the.
This is the November 7th one, is it correct?
November 7th minutes.
Okay, so I am requesting that we,
Add them to the November 7th meeting?
well, we pull that and discuss it separate because we have some things that have been brought to our attention. Does anybody have any questions about this? Has everybody read it?
Yep.
If you would, Paul, go ahead and just give us a briefing of what you have noticed in the minutes.
Yes, sir. When I was reviewing the packet, I noticed the summation of the events and the people that spoke. I didn't feel like it accurately reflected in the minutes what transpired. And I sought to clarify that with this that I've shared with each of you.
Did you provide a copy of this to our attorney?
It was emailed to her, I don't recall when, yesterday?
Yesterday.
yesterday, and I believe she forwarded it to the city secretary.
That's right.
Okay, so this is appropriate to be put into the minutes?
Anybody can ask anything of council. It's your decision whether or not you feel like those minutes are insufficient and you want the city secretary to adjust the minutes accordingly.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, the one word that really jumped out at me is if you look at the, in your packet, where it lists the individuals who spoke in favor of and opposed to, where it references to, it says Molly Mitchell, attorney representing some property owners, made comments in opposition. I felt like that didn't properly reflect the size of the opposition, including there's no reference to any of the individuals who were in opposition. And I think for the record, for future reference, perhaps other people who might be interested in the property in the area who might go through and want to look at the minutes of prior applications will want to see who was opposed, to what extent. I think it gives a better perspective of what occurred.
Mayor, I'd like to move that we pull this item from the consent agenda so we can discuss it.
Okay.
I'll second
I have a
motion.
motion. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, the issue I've got is
Gotta vote.
some,
Paul,
No,
don't we have to vote on the
Not yet,
motion?
no.
Okay.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We're at the further discussion right now. A motion and a second. Oh, who was second?
yeah, I'm okay with the city secretary's terminology that you've reflected. That's just a suggestion about changing the language, and I don't think that necessarily provides any additional or corrects an error in what was said. And I don't think we should take folks' suggestions about language as opposed to the facts of what was said and done at the meeting. So I'm okay with the city secretary's representation of what happened at the meeting.
All right.
She did like 13 people, wasn't she?
You haven't been recognized yet.
The minutes, reading from this paragraph, the minutes should be corrected to state all the names of those for whom Molly Mitchell spoke, while the minutes currently recognize everybody who spoke independent of Molly. How do you quantify some? Did she speak for one person, two person? The minutes do not quantify or properly reflect the size of that opposition to this matter that brought a huge turnout to the meetings, and that was consequential to the area in
So I haven't
question.
gone back and listened to this one, but do we know for sure that these of all people
Yes, sir.
were all identified as somebody she was speaking for?
At the onset of the meeting, Josh obtained, Josh, that was on the 21st. On the 7th, she gave a list, I believe either to Aaron or I think it was someone. She gave someone a list at the onset of the meeting. I know, Josh, was that on the 21st or the 7th? Because I remember you got the list from her, but I think that was the 21st when you had the sniffles.
I still have them, so I don't know the date.
But she did, and she even differentiated in that list who was within and who was outside of the 200-foot notification area. There's nothing in here in the minutes that reflects what the size of that opposition was, which, as I recall, was the calculation stopped when they got to either 40 or 46%. And at that point, that did not include Dorothy Gudgell's acreage. 46% in opposition is a big number that should be memorialized, I feel, in the minutes for somebody to reflect upon down the road if they're looking at this development, this homeowners association and the lots there.
We don't know that percentage. We just know it was stopped at 46.
Yes, sir.
44, Mr. Mayor.
44. So we can't reflect the percentage because that was not presented in the meeting.
The calculation was stated at that meeting, It was just stated, like to your point, that they stopped calculating at 40%. So perhaps it would be accurate to say over 40% or over 35%, over 39%. I think the most important thing to me in here is really just I think more accurately, just getting the names into the record of the people who were in opposition to it, rather than leaving it as a undefined word being some. Is it possible to enter their names into the record, such as the other names?
That sounds like a request, not so much a correction. I'm with Frank on that.
Okay.
It's not a correction, it's just a request.
And as far as the records for the meeting go, in my opinion, that doesn't really change anything. I mean, there was opposition. We had positives and negatives that both spoke. They said their piece, that's recorded. Everyone that spoke is mentioned. As far as who Molly was representing, that's her records, and those are available.
They are.
I'm
I'll
just not
close with.
seeing that this is a significant thing to put in here.
I certainly appreciate that. I just think that down the road, if somebody's wanting to see what they could expect and weighing whether or not they want to delve into this conundrum of an area, they'll want to see what kind of opposition they can expect, and I don't think that this accurately reflects that. I'm sorry, what, Roy?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Mr. Mayor, from a legal perspective, there's not a legal deficiency with your minutes as they're written today.
I think I'd like to make just one point, because we review the minutes for a reason and we all make mistakes, and I don't think anything that he's asking for is unreasonable. And if we're going to review the minutes and discuss them, I just don't want to ever discourage any citizens from helping us get the minutes as accurate as possible. And I think the names or numbers are kind of significant.
Roy said you get a transcript, it's all.
If anybody needs it, we have records.
It just seems like the minute is it's the first resource, and I haven't seen this happen yet when we have people other than us asking to correct the minutes, and I encourage it.
Well, it's not a correction.
Well, you say that, but I feel like it's a specification, but
Come on up.
You've got to be at the microphone so people at home can hear you.
Just an opinion and it's not necessary to call it, if it's a problem saying it's a correction, then we could set aside the semantics with regard to that sort of a reference, but it would be potentially, in my opinion, more accurately reflected. Instead of saying the word some, would it be overwhelming to change if it was just a number that was put in there? Molly spoke for 12 in opposition, then it would be more even in terms of all the people that spoke for were listed and named. I'm not saying name everybody Molly spoke for as a compromise. At least instead of some, which as Paul pointed out, could be anywhere from 2 or 3 to 50. Say the number. It was worked out that her time that she could speak on the basis of how many people she was representing, those kind of things. So it's a small thing to put 12 instead of the word some. But yet it's in the record that she spoke for a significant number of people. It's a minor compromise. We don't need to call it a correction.
That's possible.
I have no problem with that.
Yes.
She was given 42 minutes
Okay.
at 3 minutes each. So that was all the people that she was speaking for.
Okay. Looking at number C, the minutes should clarify. Okay. All right. So.
We'll look at it.
At this point, At this point, I'm open for action on the November 7th, 2019 regular council meeting minutes, which is what we're talking about here, this one.
So did Frank pull that?
Oh.
The 178?
No, I just took, the motion was take it off consent so we could discuss.
Oh, okay.
So it's still here.
Sandra, do you have anything that you think we should know to understand? This is what you do for a living, right, kind of?
Yes, we do action minutes, they're not verbatim. And so who made the motion, what the motion was, what action was taken. When I do have the information, the sheets help a lot with who actually spoke. And so if there's someone who actually speaks, those are the people that I list. That's how I do them with every meeting. And we do have the recordings that if anybody wanted to go back and for the history purposes, we do have it.
So is all there, is the only thing that wanting to be put into this is Molly Mitchell, attorney, represented 14 property owners, made comments in opposition? Is that what we're talking about? Versus, I'm not in favor of listing all the people.
That was B on the things he had requested.
But, you know. Where we at, people?
It's open for action, so I'm waiting for either a motion to approve as is or to amend it to show A, B, or C, or we take no action and it doesn't get approved at all.
Mayor, I'd like to move that we approve the minutes of October 18, 2019 as presented.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1. All right, now we are considering the special called October 18th, 2019 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve those minutes.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second of the October 18, 2019 special called meeting. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimous. All right, discussion item, discussion and possible action regarding appointment of council liaisons to boards, commissions, and committees.
Mayor, I put this item on the agenda as a precursor to the next item, but for this one, it just gives the council the opportunity if someone wanted to change or trade or remove themselves from a particular board, commission, or committee, this would give you that opportunity to make those changes now. If everyone's happy, then you can just keep it, take no action. Your call.
Anybody want to change, trade?
Nope.
Not me.
All right.
We are going to have to put one more person on the Golf Course Advisory Committee.
Yeah, this is just for liaisons.
Oh, we're just.
This is just you.
Not
This is
the committees.
This is just the council
All right.
deciding if you're making a change before you start discussing the appointments. It's apparent it was a dumb agenda item.
It was just a discussion.
I won't put it on again next year.
It was just no, it's possible. It is possible. We have had in the past, we have had council members because of their jobs or something like that. We have had council members change their liaisons. So, no, it's fine. Discussion regarding appointments to boards, commissions, and committees.
Mayor, so we've presented the applications to the council. I believe we actually had some.
That's 71 pages.
Yeah, there was the additional applications for the boards. So we presented that information to council, but some liaisons requested that we open back up the application period and to add additional applicants into the matrix and give you those lists. I'm not sure if you actually have the updated list or not, but if you don't have it, we'll get you the new list. We wanted to present them on this meeting and then have council make the appointments on the next December 19th meeting.
Sandra, you sent this out today, correct?
Sent what out?
App. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
The updated?
Never mind, never mind. I'm thinking something else. Never mind.
Is it possible to get additional applicants before the next meeting?
I believe the deadline ended today, did it not?
Well, no, Mayor, the deadline ended a couple weeks ago, last week.
Well,
But again, council can do what you choose to do.
I've got another question. There's a candidate on here that resigned, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to serve on anything. It's in here, so huh?
I think I noted that in the matrix.
Oh,
Okay, so you're asking,
no, I just can't read this thing on my screen.
so
All those footnotes are for stuff.
we just need to clarify the number of vacancies, right? You don't need additional applicants, do you?
No, I just need to know who's available, but the list that I was getting, I was thinking was incorrect as to how many we have that are actual. There's 71.
Well, 71 pages. I don't know if it's 71 applications, because some of them have resumes and stuff like that.
How do you open it?
And Mr. Mayor, I think I have one that the chair of the Parks and Recs Committee, I think that might have just been an oversight that his application wasn't in. I think he's probably going to stay, but I haven't been able to speak to him yet.
Okay, let me look down here. Have we identified, well, this doesn't, let's see, wait. I'm on the wrong page. Okay.
Don, does he have an expiring term?
I believe he does.
Okay.
I learned that yesterday, I think, and I don't think he necessarily knew that.
So this has the applicant, does it say, this does not? Okay, since y'all are in charge of these, I did not review these. Does it say what openings we have? Oh, it says four appointments,
At the very top, in parentheses, Mayor, it tells you how many. It may not, if the existing member did not put in an application, then you're not going to see them as someone that's expiring if they didn't put in an application. For example, the Economic Development Advisory Committee Chairman, Clive, didn't put in his application, but he would like to have an application. So you're not going to see that on there unless they updated it to get an application in.
Right.
Right, but I'm talking, the vacancies, are the vacancies accurate?
Yeah, just the
Is that
top.
accurate, though?
The numbers at the top, yes, sir.
Is yours accurate, Tim?
What Tim doesn't realize is there's a footnote. We put in every application that is 1 year or less in age. So even though the guy resigned, he has a current application, he's listed, but there's a footnote that tells you, don't think about it.
Okay, I couldn't bring it up. He just showed me how to,
I got you.
Okay.
and I'm gonna put these on.
Yeah, we list everybody with a 1 year or less.
Thank you.
In fact, I think one time we had one where a guy said, I don't want to be on a committee. I put that in a footnote. But we include him if his application is appropriate date.
Gotcha.
I got 5 appointments. Holy smokes.
You do
Yeah,
now.
but some of those may be people that are still want to be on there.
Yeah, one of your guys is got a footnote.
Yeah.
Don't consider.
So basically, we can accept other applications if we need to, if there were some oversights or people that didn't know they're expiring.
From current members or from?
Current members.
Mayor, I'd say as with everything, council can do what you want to do. Just make sure that it's, I would say, like we'd always say, that you can justify the response based on allowing someone else to apply after the deadline. That's just a form response, is that we want to make sure that everyone has ample opportunity and that it's a fair process based on some finding of fact.
Well, and we discussed this with some of our other issues with, these applications and, like these development applications and things coming in after our agenda has been put together and showing up at the meeting and trying to hand us pieces of paper and things that, we've already gone to press and we've already advertised everything, but yet people are still trying to get stuff put into the package. I mean, it's up to y'all, but at some point we have to stop taking applications. So do we do it on the original deadline? Do we do it next Thursday when Sandra's putting the package together? Or when do we stop taking applications?
I think we have to have a deadline.
I mean, we set a deadline.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, and I think there's enough names
Yeah.
that we have to look at that we can analyze the situation from there.
Otherwise, it's very fluid and you just don't know where you are. You don't
Well,
stick to the.
historically, a lot of these people didn't have to reapply if they were staying. That's a slightly new policy. The applications.
It's at least 2 years old.
That's, I think,
Well, I like to tell you what I do. I email and used to before we found out that the mail's not real reliable, we used to email and hand send them a formal letter that says, your term is expiring. If you want to reapply, you must do so. I emailed all my guys.
But the difference is, if you're talking about P and Z, building and standards, and another one, you're talking about one more, Board of Adjustment. Those are your guys as a staff liaison. The others are council liaison boards, so staff is not sending it to them. Back to your point, Mayor, you pick a date and time and tell us, and then we can update the matrix and the information based on whatever date the council picks. We just have to know the same thing. And so, I mean, I agree with your point. If we're gonna hold something to a date, it has to be. So if the chairman of an advisory board doesn't know that their term expires, it's not our issue to take that to them and say, hey, here it is. But I know it happens. I agree with Don. It happens, but it's not our responsibility. We're not dealing with
I don't have count committees except for my youth, and that's a whole nother story. So if y'all want to take applications, y'all just let me know. We'll let staff know.
No, I'm fine with the applications I have.
Same here.
How many is that?
What was the statement?
I said I'm fine with the number of applications that I have for my commissions.
So as of what's on the screen right now?
Okay, you're
or-
good with yours, but do you want to allow other council members?
If someone needs someone else and they know some other people,
I need 5 appointments, right?
All right.
And there's a couple-
All right, I'll make the decision. We'll open it up until, what is next Thursday, the 12th? Because that's when the packet has to go together.
Let me just make a request then,
Let's go
Mayor.
the 11th.
If you could go Wednesday
The
instead of
11th.
Thursday, so we can get something together, because we've got to update it. And then I would say that if you have that person that's not on here, we
Let them
have to
know.
have their application by end of business on
The 11th.
Wednesday, the 11th.
All right, you have direction.
Thanks, sir.
yeah, Kevin.
Microphone.
Of course you may.
Kevin Sullivan, 3933 Apple Trace. This is appropriate probably to this item and the previous one. Aaron, were you able to get the answer to the question I asked you before we started tonight? Do all the boards have to allow for comment?
Yes.
Okay, so last night I went to the Golf Course Advisory Committee meeting and they had one item for vote. It was about having an economic impact study done. They didn't talk about it much themselves, and they did not allow any discussion by the citizens. And so I asked, I didn't know if it was only for council or if it was everybody. And Aaron said it's for all the boards and committees. So all I'm asking is if the liaisons would let their committees know this, that they have to allow citizen comment for all the items on their agenda.
Got it.
Okay. Thank y'all.
And I'm guilty of that too. Like tonight,
I totally get it, but
items of
I don't know that
interest.
people
I
knew.
forgot to ask if the audience had anything they wanted to present. Like,
Yeah, I certainly didn't know if committees and boards were required, and I didn't know until I asked her. So I just thought I'd make sure that you guys knew.
cool. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
It was such a fluid thing, you couldn't really say much about it.
All right, we good?
Structure. Yep.
We've given direction. City manager report.
Mayor, the one question we have is for the January 2nd, 2020 regular council meeting. We just want to confirm that we'll have council in town and in the right mind to hold a council meeting on January the 2nd.
Can you cancel it?
So the question is that date good? If not, do we move it to the next week and have back-to-back meetings that month? Or do you cancel? So 3 options.
What happens on the 2nd?
Nothing happens on the 2nd, I hear.
Day after New Year's.
That's 2 days. You got the 1st and the 2nd to recover, so.
Staff's request is not for staff. We're just worried about you guys, Mayor.
And Frank's the only party animal we have on the council. Let me look.
I'm fine.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Yep.
That's enough for a quorum, Mayor.
Well, then I'm good.
Okay. We got either the mayor or the mayor pro tem.
Because the only thing that I would have would be work. And, yeah, I am off.
Okay, that's all I have, Mayor.
So, okay.
Thanks, sir.
That's the only report you have?
That's enough.
Does that fall under future meetings, which was the next item I'm trying to get to? So we skipped your report and went to future items.
Mayor, I've got 2.
All right.
I'd like to discuss and consider a policy for city development.
Definitely.
Y'all have seen a proposal. And the second one is CIP reporting, capital improvement reporting.
So my question on your first one, on the, are you looking for a policy of some sort? Because I had that already on the agenda for our strategic planning session. So are you looking for something to be an ordinance policy of some sort on? Or is this
Yes.
just something internal that?
No, yes.
Maybe.
I have.
'Cause what I would have in
a
strategic-
proposal about a policy, a council policy with respect to the standards and process that will be used for our development
Okay.
of city property. And I've got a proposal
And it probably should be in writing.
and we can discuss and cuss and whatever we need to do, but I think it's a good time for us for the council to take some action on that. I think it frankly is going to be pretty simple, but that's what I'm trying, actually just looking for a council to set policy, probably by motion.
Okay.
The policy
So
Well, the policy,
is January 2nd good? I mean,
yes, sir.
because we've got to have somebody put that together, so.
No, I've got it.
You've got it?
Yes, sir. I put it in the letter that I emailed to y'all.
Well, I know,
had it in your
I've seen
hand.
your version, but
Well, no, no.
it has to go to Aaron and Roy, does it not, to be?
No,
No?
I don't think so. It's a policy statement. It's not an ordinance.
Correct.
Okay. I'm just making sure.
Are we talking about the two-step PDD?
No.
No.
And I've got I'll email it. Well, let me ask you, Mayor, how do you want me to put it in the packet? If it's okay. Okay, if it's okay to put it on the agenda, I'll put my proposal in the packet, give it to Sandra. And
Okay. Yeah, so you'll
you've
have
seen
to.
it. You had it yesterday on top of your paper.
Yeah, but I printed it out.
We'll make it.
Oh, okay.
Closely.
But we can all, staff-wise, we can handle whatever we need. So we'll have it on January 2nd.
Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to also have a
CIP reporting is okay for the second too?
Sorry.
Is the CIP reporting okay for the second or next meeting?
Second.
CIP reporting could even be this next December meeting, but I'll make sure we get it ready. It'll be by the 2nd, Mayor.
Okay.
Second.
Are you good? Or do you want it
For
for
the
the January?
second?
Second.
Sure, yeah.
All right, that gives you to the 2nd.
Great.
All right.
Hey,
Now
Mayor,
go.
I'd like to be able to discuss, or I recommend that we have a discussion about two-step PDD application process at the next council meeting.
We have, oh, you want it,
Yeah, we had,
I was gonna say, didn't we already have that scheduled?
it's going, yeah, it's going to PNC and,
That's right,
yeah,
in January. Okay, so we'll have the discussion afterwards anyway.
after they,
Okay.
after
So it'll be
Never
January
mind.
16th.
It's gotta be the meeting after that.
Okay. Scratch the second.
So, Mr. Mayor, at the last meeting, I asked for a radical balanced budget from the golf course manager, and I haven't seen any action on that. I actually was there yesterday and ran into the manager, and he had not been requested to do so. I'm not an enemy of golf. I just think in order to save the golf course, we have to make some big changes, whether we justify spending money on it or not. And I think time is now to act. So I'd like to see that as an agenda item. We don't allow advisory boards and committees to budget for departments. And I feel like that should be the golf course manager coming up with that budget and show us what it takes to make it not lose $435,000 in a year.
They already turned in.
So my question is, if it's a budget thing, why are we doing it now and not at budget time?
He can make rate changes anywhere through the year. We've seen it, they come up on agenda items, but they've gone through golf course committee and advisory, all kinds of processes, but we've never seen what a golf course manager would do on his own if he was unrestricted to balance the budget. He's run a balanced budget, he's run a profitable city golf course before that I would say cannot even compare to the beauty of our course. Let's give him the opportunity to do it and present to us what he would do.
Okay.
We need to request him. Josh told me last meeting, I can't request him to do it, but you can, right?
Correct. So Mayor, so the question is, do you want a discussion item for what's going to be in it? Because before it was, how would we?
It was just a rate thing.
What would be the rate structure? That's different than what we're saying before. So we could, yeah, that's totally different. So that's a different, if we listen back to the minutes, you'll see the difference in the request there. So we can put it as an action item that's discussed at one of these next agendas, and you can give us direction for what you want to see as a
We've had
council.
pro forma on the golf course for years, haven't we?
I'm sorry?
What's that?
So we have pro forma on the golf course for years. We know what they're doing.
Yeah, so my point being, we just need to clarify how we want to, what are we looking at, Mayor? Are we looking at?
Yeah, you're looking at actions, work, things that he would do
I want to see,
physically,
here's
or
my chief problem with running this golf course is that if it's less than $200 a month for the single membership to play unlimited golf and unlimited range balls, that's unrealistic to me to run a business that's not going to just keep draining money. And there's all kinds of speculation about what will happen if we change the membership rates and how many people come and how many people go. I think it's
so you're asking
important.
on the rate side, what would he do to the rates to make it?
I think the rates are a large part of it, but I don't know the golf course, but I know I've been told that our golf course manager can balance the budget and it will take membership rates to change and day rates to be adjusted also. So those are the two items I know we're going to ask for more spending to improve the greens, and we know this. I want to see a business plan that I would invest money in before we start talking about those other actions.
I can request that from every entity in the city.
Are you looking for?
Nothing in the city makes money.
Excuse me, Tim.
Right.
Are you also asking for like physical changes, like getting rid of some of the golf carts to save money, or, I mean, are you looking for other things or just the
numbers?
Just the numbers. Okay.
So the business plan or the numbers?
He's looking for the numbers.
Okay, I got you. I just wrote down the third version was the business plan. The problem is, that's why I said we'll make it as an action item, so we're discussing. I just want to make sure when we're putting something together, how that we bring something back that gets what you want to see, so.
I mean, Josh is not a golf course manager, neither is anyone on the committee. We have one, we've hired him for a reason. I want to see his numbers without anyone else's input, is kind of what I'd like to see.
I don't.
You,
Not me. That stuff's going to get filtered to the city manager, and I think that's the way it ought to be. But he gets to decide what comes to us, not the golf course manager. But you've given, he's got some direction.
I'm trying to save the golf course for you. That's my point,
All
right?
I'm doing
And
is process.
I do believe it's an asset, and that I think with just a little bit of changes, it might be a little painful for some people, but we can run this thing for a break even. Certain.
All right. You good?
Not really. I mean, I don't mean to be stupid, and I think that's where I'm sitting, and maybe I'm just,
I don't know, we'll
that's what I'm saying is in terms of,
together and
I'm fine with that.
the three of us.
Yeah, let
get
me,
together.
correct me if I'm wrong, Don. When we discussed this during the retreat, I thought your question was, we need to raise the rates to break even, or the fees to break even, correct?
I feel like we need to change the membership rates. That's my amateur opinion. When I ask around at other golf courses, Twin Creeks Unlimited Golf is $600 a month. And it's a golf course. It's in a nice neighborhood, but it's in a valley. It doesn't have views. It doesn't, there's nothing special about Twin Creeks.
Except it's a private course.
Yeah, that's the problem the manager's got. Now because you've got multiple variables that I don't know what we're looking at, because at the retreat.
We'll have to discuss it when it comes up. Right now, we're just, he's asking for it to be put on.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying. Go into discussion all that.
If we could just talk about membership dues, maybe that's the number one problem that we should address, and show me what we would have to charge the members to reduce the deficit.
I'd be really good, Mayor, with putting it as an item for discussion for council and bringing information and let's have in the dialogue. That would get us exactly where we need to be. So if that's good.
It's got to be a work session.
Perfect.
We're not looking to take action just yet. We're looking at discussion, work session.
Put it for the discussion and bring numbers, and part of what Don's asking for, I can bring that information to help with our discussion. I can do that spot on. That'd be so much easier to get the discussion.
All right, good. Did you have a comment?
So for our utility enterprise fund, we had Melissa come in and talk about it, and she did a whole water study and everything and found findings. And this is why our utility rates just went up. But golf is an enterprise fund as well. So why don't we do a golf rate study on that as well? It's an enterprise fund just the same as utilities are.
Okay.
I don't know how many different golf courses there are in the area that are also owned by the city and are an enterprise fund.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know that Delaware Springs is. That's the only one that I'm aware of. That is a city-owned course.
Okay.
Delaware Springs.
All right. Again, we're not discussing
Right.
issues.
I'm
We are-
suggesting that may be, one of the comparison courses that we would
yeah.
use.
We'll put that on, Mayor.
Okay. All right, anything else, future? All right. Do we have any reason to go into executive session at this point?
No.
No.
Well, I do. No, I'm just kidding.
You'll be there by
All right, I will call, well, we can't,
Take the cookies with
we cannot leave yet because Sandra wants to stay till 6. Do what? All right, I'll call this meeting adjourned at 9:31 PM.
You know what's funny?
if we'd have took bets on this meeting and when it was gonna go.
Thank you for getting me back up and running, man.
Me too.
Look at the agenda.
Yeah.
I know.
I thought this was an easy.
My picture.
Who's we?
Yeah, because I mean, that's.
Yeah, go away for 2 weeks and it needs a
These
reboot.
would be the ones that we would use.
Not during.
Yeah.